Welcome everybody to the April Yarra Council meeting here at Fitzroy Town Hall. Yarra Council acknowledges Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people as the traditional owners and true sovereigns of the land now known as Yarra. We acknowledge their creative spirit Bunjil, their ancestors and their elders. We acknowledge the strength and resilience of the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung, who have never ceded sovereignty and retained their strong connections to family, clan and country, despite the impacts of European invasion. We also acknowledge the significant contributions made by other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to life in Yarra. We pay our respects to elders from all nations here today and to their elders past, present and future. We've got leave of absence from Councillor Wade. We've got apologies for sickness for Councillor Mackenzie, apologies for a sick daughter from Councillor Aston, but we have 6 councillors here, which is a quorum. Councillors, I'm going to ask each of you a conflict of interest declarations. You may respond, I do, to the following question. Do you declare you have familiarised yourself with the matters being presented to this meeting and that you do not have a conflict of interest? Councillor Crossland.
I do.
Councillor Davies.
I do.
Councillor Gomez.
I do.
Councillor Harrison.
I do.
Councillor Ho.
I do.
And I do as well. We do have a conflict of interest from one officer being the CEO, is that correct?
Yes.
For 15.1 confidential notice of motion, number 7. Confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. We're all here for the March meeting. Councillor Harrison moved, seconded by myself. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's passed unanimously. We'll move straight along to public question time. We've got 17, 18, 19 odd questions. So when I call you up, I'm just going to call you up in the order of which you've registered, with the exception of Joe, who I've spoken to before, who I'll put in last because it's on a totally different topic. Most of you here are on Wellington Street, either for or against. It'll be determined at next month's council meeting. So I'm going to ask all of you, I know none of you are going to listen to it, but I am allowed to ask, can you try not to replicate what other people are saying? Try and keep your comments as short as possible. We've got a big agenda tonight, and it probably doesn't help just to say exactly what the previous person has said. So the first person I've got up, which is on Wellington Street, but not on the matter of debate in the community at the moment, on a different issue in Wellington Street, is Jenny Port. So Jenny, are you here? You're welcome. Please come up to the front here. And you've got 3 minutes to ask your question. Just press the button so the red light goes on. Thanks, Jenny.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm going to talk really fast so that I can stay within my 3 minutes. Just referring to the approved waste management plan for the property at 1 to 57 Wellington Street, Collingwood, the Victorian Vine property. My partner and I reside at 69 Victoria Parade, Collingwood. Our property directly abuts the laneway opposite the loading bay at the southern end of the Victoria and Vine apartment complex. We continue to experience ongoing and significant amenity impacts because of the waste management vehicle routinely collects waste from the laneway rather than from within the Victoria and Vine property as required by the approved permit and the waste management plan. The waste collection occurs daily and typically takes between 10 and 20 minutes each day, sometimes longer. This is a commercial scale waste collection servicing more than 200 apartments. It's not comparable to a domestic curbside collection, which occurs weekly and typically lasts less than 1 minute. When waste is collected from the laneway, neighbouring properties are subject to excessive noise, strong and unpleasant odours, diesel fumes from the truck idling, debris left behind which subsequently washes into the stormwater system, and repeated blockage of the laneway, including restricting rear access to our property. These exact impacts were raised during the VCAT proceedings for this development. The waste management plan was expressly developed and approved to mitigate these issues. Since early 2023, I've made multiple requests to Yarra City Council compliance officers seeking enforcement of the approved waste management plan. The responses I've received from compliance officers are, the breach was addressed and the matter is now resolved. It isn't. There was no breach of the waste management plan and so there is nothing to resolve. Or, there is a breach of the waste management plan but the truck is parked on the apron, which is private property, so council can't do anything. So those 3 responses are the ones that I regularly get when I report this issue. The approved waste management plan makes no reference to collection from an apron. Further, this method of collection clearly fails to address the amenity impacts identified at VCAT, including noise, odour, diesel fumes, debris and obstruction of the laneway. In any event, the waste collection vehicle is too large for the apron and regularly encroaches into the laneway, continuing to block the lane as well as rear access to our property. The waste management clearly states the truck must back into the loading bay and collect from inside the building. I have the SWEP diagrams here if anyone wants to look. Please, I have some images as well of the various parking methods used by the collection vehicle. In every case, the truck remains where it is parked for the duration of the waste collection. I emphasise this collection method is daily, not occasionally. Accordingly, my question is, can Yarra City Council require the Victoria and Vine apartment complex to comply...
30 seconds.
Sorry? 30 seconds. Can Yarra City Council require the Victoria and Vine apartment complex to comply with the approved waste management plan and permit conditions, specifically that waste collection occur within the building as stipulated, and if not, please identify the statutory or planning basis on which non-compliance is being accepted.
Thanks, Jenny. Mary Osmond, I think you're going to answer this question, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and nice to see you again, Jenny. I can confirm there is an approved endorsed waste management plan for the site. Council officers have received the most recent complaints and are currently investigating the matter. We'll be in contact with you if there's any further information you want to submit, but the officers will be speaking to the body corporate of the development. So thank you for your question.
Thank you. The next person is Sarah Walls. Welcome, Sarah. Yeah, just press it again, please. Thanks.
Over a year ago, I attended the North Richmond Graffiti Forum. A council employee announced that the City of Yarra was going to be redrafting the local laws, and this was the opportunity to, at the very least, get graffiti incorporated into the definition of unsightly property. Yay, I got to work. Other residents kept telling me they won't do anything, don't bother, they're just telling you things you want to hear. They were right, I was wrong. I've wasted days and days over what has been more than a year now. I wrote feedback to the draft local laws consultation period twice. I've written and spoken with my ward rep, councillors, the mayor. I've written to and spoken with employees, from those on reception to those in decision-making positions, and everyone and anyone who would speak with me in between, each time being told, trust us, we are listening and we will act. 4 things just last week. 1, I came across a man in the laneway behind my home. He startled me. What are you staring at? Beep. I said I was concerned that he was going to tag. Not your business. Beep. I said it's illegal. These are private properties. No, it isn't. We can do what we want. Beep. Should get a life. You should move. What the beep are you doing living in Collingwood? Where do you live? Which house is yours? I will come back and I will do your front door. Beep. Next day, walking down Smith Street, a guy was tagging the Woolworths site window. I got a full spray of paint really close to my face. I coughed and my eyes watered. This is so normal now in the City of Yarra, everyone just kept walking. I thought he had sprayed me deliberately and I got a fright. I called the police, they were too busy to come. 3, I was appalled to see that the proposed City of Yarra Bud Street Park plans incorporated into the uncanny street plans buildings and fences covered with illegal graffiti, tagging and peeling bill posters, presenting the ugliness of these illegal acts as the accepted look of Collingwood in a park. 4, I again called the City of Yarra. I was told that they had sought legal advice about the inclusion of a graffiti in the redrafted local laws. Last December, this was sent to a council meeting. This advice said that graffiti cannot be included in any way, shape or form as it is a police issue. Nothing we can do. The Graffiti Management Act covers everything else. No, it does not. A simple scan of our streets, buildings, laneways, bins, street poles, bollards, shops, walls and fences will tell you what all the residents know. It is not enough.
30 seconds.
I've been told that in redrafting of the local laws, they didn't have a look at the City of Melbourne. I ask you to look at section 13.1 as a start. So my question to you as a council is, why is the City of Yarra not able to include graffiti in local laws, as does the City of Melbourne, in order to take serious, evolving, meaningful and practical action to support the local residents and address the ever-worsening, ugly issue of graffiti in the City of Yarra?
Thanks, Sarah. Mary Osmond again.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Sarah. And thank you for all the feedback that you actually have been providing through stage 1 and stage 2 of the community engagement for the local law. You are correct, and I know that you have been speaking to a number of officers within council that we did seek advice.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who you are.
Sorry?
I didn't catch who you are.
My name is Mary Osman. Council did seek advice that confirmed that the Graffiti Prevention Act is what manages graffiti. Therefore, we can't specifically address graffiti within the local law. However, you have my word that I will go back and have a look at the City of Melbourne local law, and specifically the clause that you have referenced, and refer that back to our team to see if there's anything further we
And I
can
would be
add into
happy
the
to
local
speak
law.
to you at every step of the way, because I can tell you the
Sarah,
City
you
of
can't
Melbourne
get a
has.
second shot, but I just want to add to what Mary said. I've spoken to you, Sarah, and I'm really sorry for that horrific experience that you had, that you outlined very bravely a few minutes ago. The local law is out, as you know, it's out for, consultation and input from the residents. We've been inundated with views like what you're saying, that the graffiti needs to be added into the local law. I've been speaking personally to a lot of, and I think Councillor Crossland, to a lot of animal welfare groups who are not happy with the draft local law. And you can rest assured that at the June meeting, we will be making changes. And I'd strongly encourage you to come to that meeting. And maybe we could even meet up before that June meeting, because if we mess it up in June, we're stuck with the local law for years. So I really thank you for coming, and
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I have pictures of the Bud Street Park, which I can pass on as well.
Oh, thank you. The next person is Alex Lam. Alex, welcome if you're here. Alex is not here. We'll move on to Neil Hudson. You've got 3 minutes, Neil.
Yep. My name's Neil Hudson. I'm a local resident of Collingwood. Firstly, thank you to all the councillors that have listened to the community about the Wellington Street proposal. It has been a massive proposal, and we really appreciate your ears and your attendance at local rallies. Yesterday I lodged a question regarding the possible delay of the vote on Wellington Street and the changes to Collingwood and Clifton Hill in particular. I've since been advised that these rumours about the postponement of a vote are incorrect. Could you please confirm for the record that this will be voted on at the May Council meeting?
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, I can. The Wellington Street debate, if I can use that term, will be determined at the May Council meeting in exactly 4 weeks' time. It'll be at Richmond Town Hall, the second Tuesday of May. I don't know what that date is off the top of my head. It's 6:30 p.m. And I'd imagine it'll be one of the first agenda items after we've gone through public question time. And Ms. Osmond, that's correct, yeah? The officer in charge has just confirmed that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. The next person is Lola James. Welcome, Lola.
Great. Hi. I'm Lola. I live on Maida Street, right by Wellington, and I'm part of a group of people organising to support the proposed improvements to Wellington Street. And we're all hyper-local, including families who use the local school, childcare centre and playground. We're hearing more and more from people that we talk to that these changes are desperately needed to increase safety and amenity for residents by reducing outside traffic on Wellington Street and the surrounding streets. People are especially keen for these changes once they discover that the changes will not result in more than 11,000 cars driving down local streets and past their house, as is claimed by the campaign opposing these improvements. Last council meeting, we heard a lot about consultation and the importance of council listening to its communities, and we also heard very high support for the partial closures of Maida and Bud Streets demonstrated last meeting, and that indicates many Collingwood locals are not opposed to taking a slightly less convenient route as a trade-off for a more pleasant green neighbourhood. Taken together, I think it's pretty clear that if the proposed improvements to Wellington Street do not actually result in more than 11,000 cars diverted to local streets, community support for those improvements would therefore be high. So I think it would be really great to be clear on whether this proposal will or is intended to have this side effect. So my question to Council is, will the Wellington Street proposal actually divert more than 11,000 cars onto local streets?
Thank you for the question. Mary Osmond, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Lola, for your question. Preliminary modelling undertaken by the external traffic consultants did not show the diversion of traffic all to local streets. The modelling showed traffic diversions would primarily be to arterial roads, such as Hoddle Street. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lola. The next person is Patrick O'Reilly. Patrick, if you're here, welcome. The light's already on, so you can just start when you're ready.
Hi, I'm a Collingwood local, and like many of my neighbours, I've been following the proposed Wellington Street upgrades closely. Over the past few months, myself and other neighbours who are supportive of the Wellington Street upgrades have been having conversations with Collingwood and Clifton Hill locals about the project. What struck me is how much support there is once people understand what's actually being proposed, which is safer crossings, less through traffic, and a calmer, more livable street. But something else has come up repeatedly in these conversations. Many of my neighbours weren't aware of the significant traffic impacts of the Eastern Freeway changes and the completion of the North-East link will have on our local streets. The Council's own papers in the September 2025 agenda acknowledged that the Council expects a significant increase in traffic onto Alexandra Parade from these infrastructure projects. And we all know that that traffic doesn't just go through Alexandra Parade, but it also flows onto Wellington Street. So when I share this with neighbours and other people in the community that we're talking to, there is obvious reaction of concern, and it's clear that there is required changes needed for Wellington Street to stop these changes getting even worse. I've also spoken to several long-term residents who comment that the traffic volumes in Wellington Street have gotten materially worse over the past 10 years. So I think these proposed changes would go a long way in protecting our streets from all this extra traffic. So my question to the Council is, what is the Council's plan to manage the increase in through traffic that these projects will bring to Collingwood streets? And can the Council assure residents that the Wellington Street upgrades, if approved, will be delivered before the traffic arrives?
Thank you, Patrick. Mary Osmond?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Patrick, for your question. The North East Link did prepare some modelling, and the information that we have seen showed that there wouldn't be a significant increase in traffic in Yarra. We've raised some concerns with that modelling with the North East Link Authority. We believe that there would be impacts to council, and we'll need to monitor what those impacts are, not only to Wellington Street but surrounding streets, not only for vehicles but also for cyclists and pedestrians. So we'll keep monitoring that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Jeanette Morris.
Hi, my name is Jan Morris and I'm a local resident of Collingwood. I wish this question in particular to be addressed to the council officers. The current proposal the council has put forward for Wellington Street has a wide range of impacted stakeholders, many of which council has not fully considered. A petition with the signatures of more than 65 businesses have been given to council for submission to today's meeting. During the process of collecting signatures, it has become evident that they have not had any prior awareness of this proposed change unless they have been contacted by the campaign. This indicates that council has not undertaken any meaningful consultation or engagement with businesses. Many of these traders are already experiencing increased pressure and economic uncertainty driven by local and broader economic factors, including already reduced parking available in the Yarra area, including the loss of Woolworths rooftop car park. Smith Street traders not wanting through traffic diverted down what is already a very busy street with tram services, the state congestion levy covering all of Yarra for off-street parking, ongoing inflation and broader economic conditions. My question is, can the council officers explain why businesses were not engaged and how the council will address the economic impacts and business compensation?
Thanks, Jan. Mary Osmond again.
Through you, Mayor. Thanks, Jan, for the question. I can confirm that council has engaged with business throughout the project. This includes door knocking every business on Wellington Street in October 2023 and again in September 2025. Discussions with business owners at in-person pop-up sessions, postcards and letters distributed to property owners and occupiers, and a focus group held specifically for local businesses. The engagement was successful in reaching local businesses as over 100 respondents to the engagement identified that they run a business either on Wellington Street or on a connecting street. Council also commissioned a socio-economic analysis, which was published by Council at its meeting in May 2024, and all of this information will be considered when determining a way forward in the May Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Megan Flack. Welcome, Megan. The light's on, so you can just start straight away.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan. I live in Collingwood. So, as we're here tonight, the Wellington Street proposal is a significant project, and for me the lack of detailed technical information that should be available to the community is quite concerning, specifically for this question, the lack of financial costing details. For Wellington Street, given the lack of information shared by the council, and I understand what council has just responded, but obviously there's some thoughts in the community that that's been the case, a significant community backlash with more than 2,500 people signing a petition against the closure of Wellington Street, the poor formal community engagement and questions raised in regard to the safety data, which I understand will be coming. It seems highly unlikely that the benefit case of this proposal stacks up. So overall, we're concerned about a need to improve, a significant improvement of how council manages these proposals, particularly in regard to the transparency. I'm really concerned about the use of ratepayer money through the project development. I'm particularly concerned about the production of the material that was put out and the manner in which it was put out. You know, the slide that goes over the very, very grey Wellington Street to suddenly this sunny, shiny Wellington Street that has no electrical overhead wires and everyone's smiling and walking. It's so biased, and it felt really uncomfortable, the language that was used around that, and that our ratepayers' money went towards that. And the community engagement process I felt very uncomfortable about. So my question is, can the council officers please provide a straight answer as to what was the total project cost of stages 1 and 2 of Wellington Street, and what are the proposed costings for stages 3 and 4, and share this information with the community?
Thank you, Mary Osman.
Through you, Mayor, and I'm sorry, Megan, I won't be able to provide the exact response for you with the cost for stage 1 and 2, but I will come back to you separately on that topic. With respect to the costs for stages 3 and 4, high-level costs will be provided in the upcoming report to Council in May. The cost of any options depends significantly on the scope of any potential works, which isn't confirmed at this point in time. Detailed costs will be established as part of any detailed design process on an endorsed scope of works, and these consider everything from materials, drainage requirements, underground services, asset conditions and other factors, but I will come back to you with respect to the cost of stage 1 and 2 works.
Thank you. Joe Wilson?
Sorry, can I just make it?
No. We've had complaints made to the CEO that councillors speaking in question time, because we're all about to vote on this in 4 weeks' time, if they give any bias towards, they'll actually knock themselves out of being able to vote. So if you've got so let me ask you a question. Is it just a technical question? But if it's in the same way you wouldn't want to judge for a trial for you, telling you before, do you know the point I'm making? Yeah. So it's a technical question, far away.
Just to the past 2 or 3 speakers in respect to engagement, it is a concern and it's a conversation internally. I just want to make sure that you understand that we are hearing, at least I am, I'm Richmond councillor, but in terms of how we address the engagement with you, with businesses and the wider community, we absolutely are looking at how to restructure and rethink the Have Your Say system.
This has got nothing to do with the issue. Can you please
I'm talking about community engagement, which is what the speakers have raised.
All the councils, other than the Richmond council, have been very involved with the community engagement with both sides of this debate. It's taken up the #1 issue of our political lives at the moment, as it should. It's the most important issue in Collingwood. So I think they all know that. If you can just get to the crust of what you're trying to say, or what is the question, as soon as you can, please. Okay, the next person is Joe Wilson. Oh, Joe, just press the button.
Thank you for the opportunity here to speak. My question is about Wellington Street. What is the council's approach when community feedback or petitions appear to be based on an inaccurate understanding of what is being proposed? While extensively door knocking in Collingwood and Clifton Hill since February, I've spoken with a few hundred residents, and a recurring theme is that many people opposed to the project are opposed on the understanding that the section of Wellington Street between Alexandra Parade and Johnson Street would be totally closed to all vehicles. How does council take that into account when interpreting community feedback?
Thank you. Mary Osmond.
Thank you, Joe, for your question. Just to clarify, there was never a proposal to close Wellington Street to all vehicles. The objective is to maintain local access and encourage through traffic to use other arterial roads such as Hoddle Street. This information, I believe, was clear as part of the engagement that the proposal never anticipated closing Wellington Street, and we will reconfirm that in the report that's presented to Council in May to make sure that it's very, very clear for the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Paul Jackson.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity. Look, my question relates to the lack of information regarding the Wellington Street project. It concerns me there's an absolute paucity of documentation available to the community to really assess it. And there's a lack of, and by definition, that's a lack of consultation. You know, Yarra have either produced this information and are withholding it from us, or worse still, they haven't done the homework, they haven't done the preparation, and that is horrifying. So my question is about either, is the information available? Why isn't it being distributed to the community for full consultation? And I want to, before I get to my actual question, I want to talk a little bit about public trust and trust in this executive team. Unfortunately, this executive team has a horrible history when it comes to transparency.
Paul.
Sorry.
Under Section 40 and Section 53 of governance rules, you know and I know, you can't just have a crack like that in a public place. So can you just state what your differences is without saying that they're outrageous people and all the rest of it?
I'm not. I'm just talking about the history of lack of transparency.
If you can just be concrete about that, that's
okay.
fine. When you're talking on particular councillors or staff, I can't allow that.
No. Okay. We're talking about the history with regard to the bin tax, Atticus Now report, the stonewalling with regard to the Burnley Golf Course planning error. We're talking about the CEO attempt to give a $10 million authority for sale of assets by...
Point of order. Mayor?
I've got a point of order. Councillor Crossland.
This is really getting off track. I'm very happy to hear the
Paul,
question.
You're really on the edge here, and you've got to just ask your question. It's on Wellington Street because I've got it here in front of me.
Yeah, okay.
So can you just ask the question?
Right.
Otherwise, we're just going to have chaos here.
Why has Yarra Council not released to the public the following documentation pertaining to the Wellington Street through road closure? Or is this information being deliberately withheld from the community? So the points in particular, a clear project plan, clear costing estimates, as previously outlined by one of the previous speakers.
15 seconds.
Detailed traffic modelling with regard to side streets, detailed supporting data analysis, economic impact analysis, risk analysis and mitigations, stakeholder impact assessments, and a review of the first two stages of the project.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
All right, Mary Osmond.
Through you, Mayor, thanks, Paul, for your question. I will say that Council has publicly released a significant amount of information regarding this project. We have had multiple reports that have been presented in the public forum at Council, and Council has endorsed the project all the way through to public consultation. Additional information will form part of the May report to Council, but I will say that there's been a lot of information that has been put out to the public. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. The next question is from James Mahoney.
Yeah, I've just realised my question is very similar to Paul about information and delay in getting the information.
Okay, no worries. Thanks, James. The next person is Pam Kershaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Are you okay if my colleague distributes a one-page graph to the councillors?
Pam, would you be able to just lean over and just turn off the other one? Thank you, Pam. Your 3 minutes start now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Pam Kershaw and I'm a local resident of Collingwood. And my question relates to the safety data published by Yarra Council on its website. Safety is positioned as a core pillar of the council's proposal for, and I quote, building a safer Wellington Street, unquote. However, the proposal is not supported by an analysis of all the available data from Transport Victoria. On the project website, the council uses cherry-picked data that only goes to 2022, even though data has been available for some time into 2025. This excluded data actually shows that safety is improving on Wellington Street. In fact, the sections north of Johnston Street, which would be stages 3 and 4 of the council plan, actually have better safety performance than the upgraded sections 1 and 2 to the south. Further, council appears to have provided no information on a post-implementation review regarding stages 1 and 2, and we wonder whether one has actually been conducted. And we also wonder how council can justify the project as delivering safety outcomes if there has been no post-implementation review and if the crash data shows that previous works have not delivered on this claim. So could council please explain why the data analysis only focused on the years 2018 to 2022 when data from 2022 to February 2025 was available?
Thank you. Mary Osman, please.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you, Pam, for your question. The report to which you refer to was written in December 2023, and as noted in the report, at the time of writing, data for 2023 was incomplete. We are aware that data from 2022 to February 2025 is now available, but that was only made available recently, and the updated report that would be presented to May will include this up-to-date data. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Liam O'Boyle. Welcome, Liam. Just press the button when you get up to the top, please.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Liam O'Boyle. I live in Clifton Hill. My question is about the share of local traffic on Wellington streets. In preparation for the proposed upgrades, a study was conducted using number plate recognition cameras at key points along Wellington Street and on side streets to identify where individual vehicles entered and exited the corridor. By matching plates across the camera locations, they were able to identify which vehicles had a local origin or destination and which didn't. The study was comprehensive. It covered 3 periods: weekday morning, weekday afternoon and evening, and weekend days across 12 different locations in both directions in both Clifton Hill and Collingwood. The findings were presented at the September 9 council meeting, and one figure stood out: 88% of vehicles entering at Alexander Parade and travelling south along Wellington Street in the morning peak had no local origin or destination. Council subsequently provided me with a full data set. Clifton Hill is similar, with 75% of traffic entering at Alexander Parade and travelling north in the PM peak having no local origin or destination. Across all 12 monitored locations in both directions at all time periods, the majority of vehicles were through traffic, with almost no exceptions. So the data shows that most traffic on Wellington Street is not local. Yet when speaking to people about this project, many have been told the opposite. Most traffic is actually local. I heard it at an event just the other day. Does council have any data that supports the claim that most Wellington Street traffic is local?
Thank you, Liam. Mary Osman, please.
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Liam, for your question. You are correct that council did commission origin destination surveys for traffic travelling along and near Wellington Street, as detailed in the previously published data reports. While the proportion of local trips recorded varied depending on the section of street, the majority of car traffic recorded did not stop within the survey area, and that this area was defined as Queen's Parade, Hoddle Street, Johnson Street and Smith Street. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is John Yanulis. John, are you here? No. Janet Christie? Oh, John, sorry, mate. Take your time. Welcome, John. You 3 minutes as soon as you start talking. Can you just press the button? Thanks, mate.
I've been following the discussions around Wellington Street closely, and I've also spent time speaking with others in my community. What's become clear to me is that this is a very passionate issue, but also one where there appears to be a gap between what is being proposed and what some people believe is being proposed. In particular, I've repeatedly heard concerns based on the belief that Wellington Street will be closed entirely to vehicles and that all existing traffic, often quoted at around 11,000 vehicles per day, will simply be pushed into nearby residential areas. I think it's important to acknowledge those concerns, but I also think it's important to recognise that these outcomes are not inevitable and rely on assumptions about how traffic behaves. From what I understand, traffic doesn't simply shift one for one into local streets. It redistributes across different routes, times and modes. And that's what transport modelling is used in the first place. My concern is that when strong views are formed based on incomplete or inaccurate information, it risks distorting the overall picture the Council relies on when making decisions. This project also sits within a broader direction Council is already taking, investing in safer streets, improving amenity and expanding open space, including new local parks nearby. In that context, improving Wellington Street seems consistent with that broader direction. So my question is, what evidence or modelling does Council rely on to assess how traffic actually redistributes in situations like this, and how is that clearly communicated to the community?
Mary Osborne, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, John, for your question. As answered a little bit earlier, there was never the proposal to close the entire of Wellington Street. Council commissioned external consultants to conduct preliminary traffic modelling on various proposed options and assess possible impacts on nearby residential streets. We've done more detailed modelling, would be completed should Council resolve to proceed with any of the change options, again to monitor if vehicle movements have actually changed into local streets, but we rely on the data for the external consultants that shows that it wouldn't be a one-for-one transfer into local streets. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Janet Christie.
Okay. My name is Janet Christie. I've lived in Hodgkinson Street between Gold and Wellington Streets, West Clifton Hill, for over 40 years. The City of Yarra should have as its priority the livability and safety of its own residents, businesses and community groups. These groups expect their elected councillors to make decisions representing their views. After all, the above-mentioned groups pay rates, parking permits, etc. to the City of Yarra. I've spoken to many residents, businesses and community groups in West Clifton Hill and attended the pop-up events at both Gold Street Primary School and the Darling Gardens regarding the proposed changes to Wellington Street between Alexandra and Queen's Parades. And as recorded on the option boards at both pop-ups, the vast majority indicated they do not want any changes to Wellington Street in West Clifton Hill. My question is, therefore, why would Council put the convenience of any group, for example the bike lobby, who can't be identified and who don't live in West Clifton Hill, contribute nothing to the area, have no origin or destination in the area and don't want to stop for a school crossing, and use this stretch of Wellington Street perhaps twice a day, 5 days a week, and rarely in inclement weather, over the inconvenience these changes would result in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for those who do live and work in West Clifton Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Mary Osmond, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Janet. I appreciate your feedback. Obviously, that's part of the engagement process. The objective of this study was to take a multimodal approach to the corridor upgrade. That's being improvements to safety and amenity for everyone, regardless of how they travel. But I do take your feedback on board. Thank you.
Thank you. As I said to Councillor Davies, please make sure it's a technical question and you don't comment on the views. Otherwise, you won't be able to express your own view in a month's time.
Look, my question is simply that there's been multiple people here tonight make the sort of comment that they're very keen to see the data that Council has access to. So I'm really wanting to ask the officers whether we can make that available at the earliest opportunity. I know that this is on the agenda for the May meeting, but is there any possibility that this could be offered earlier to address the concerns people are raising?
Mary Osmond, please.
Through you, Mayor, I believe that we can make some of that available on the website. So we'll just need to package that up to make sure that the information is clear in what it's showing. So can I come back to councillors with the timing?
Take it on notice. Thank you.
All right, that's really good. Henry Harding. Henry. No, it was already on. You turned it off, yeah. No, just press it again. Thanks, mate. Yeah.
Good evening, Council. My name is Henry Harding. I'm a property owner and resident of Collingwood and also part of the group who is in support of the changes to Wellington Street. There is a substantial body of evidence across many cities, countries that have showed that local businesses benefit significantly when streets are made safer and more pleasant for pedestrians and cyclists. Locals visit business strips more, spend more time there and spend more money. Many businesses around Wellington Street, like Molly Rose, Good Vibes Yoga, Nighthawks and My Ride and many others, are well aware of these benefits, and that is why they've signed up to support the proposed improvements to Wellington Street. My question is, has the Council done or does it plan to do any economic assessment of the proposed improvements as part of its decision-making process? If this assessment has been conducted, what have some of the key findings been? Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. Mary Osmond.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you, Henry, for your question. There was an economic assessment that was made and that was actually published in a council agenda. So we do reference the economic data, and that's obviously something that we've take into consideration with the final recommendation. I don't have the exact date in front of me, I'm sorry. It is somewhere here in my notes, but Henry, I can provide the exact link. So thank you.
Henry, if you email me tomorrow, I'll get it to you tomorrow. I'll send you an email copy of that. Thank you. The next person is Joe Gagliano. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for your patience. Just press that button, please.
Good evening, everyone. I'm in Marina Parade, Richmond. In March 25 at the meeting, the council meeting, one of the comments was, whilst not the driver for parking management, parking enforcement is now a critical component of the City of Yarra's revenue stream and our long-term financial sustainability. Yarra has also many visitors to the municipality during the day and the evening, due primarily to employment and later in the evenings due to the food and beverage entertainment industry that exists across the activity centres and surrounds. Same report, prioritising parking for residents, businesses and essential services. At tonight's agenda also states that parking services is a crucial element of City of Yarra's revenue stream and is key for Council's long-term financial sustainability. Therefore, any decisions on the trial and other paid parking matters need to consider revenue implications. On the first night of the AFL season, with me having contacted the Council weeks before and making suggestions, it seems Yarra management knew best and ignored the opportunity to book many cars. So in the Crofts, this tiny little street, which is about 250 metres long, there were 14 cars that were not booked when they could have been. That means over $1,666 in a 200-metre space. If we widen that out to other streets, 25 in the precinct area, that's at least $34,986 in one night that was missed. If we also add the other cars not booked in Arena Parade between Rotherwood and Punt, that was another 833. And if we add that to the AFL season alone in that little area, that's 23,324. Till the end of June, which is showing the season, in total that would be over $1,202,932 missed. And that's only for AFL matches. That doesn't include concerts, NRL, soccer games, all of that foregone from council budgets. And that undermines the commitment given to increase patrols from April 24, increase patrols in high demand areas around major events like those at the MCG and Olympic Park precinct, and to target patrols based on past data and anticipated event crowds. In 2024, I walked around a wider area because I've been accused of only looking after my street area only. So I'd like to ask, because I keep getting ignored with this, I need to get an idea when there will be more staff to patrol and find illegally parked cars and ensure council maximises revenue of millions of dollars per year. And I've been raising this since 2024.
Thanks, Joe. Mary Osmond.
Thank you, Joe, for your question. I know that we've had many a conversation about enforcement, and I can assure you that, as we've previously outlined, the team is conscious of any and all major events that are on at the MCG precinct more broadly. I do appreciate there's probably from time to time that cars are parked illegally that aren't booked, but the teams do regularly patrol these areas. In addition to that, I also understand that the Manager of Parking Compliance contacted you last week, and she's also happy to come out and have a conversation about these concerns and work together to see if we can come to some resolution. But I will reiterate that the teams do patrol these areas and are regularly monitoring the major events that are on in and around our municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davies.
I just have a question for officers. Can we please, is there a record, or do you have an amount of the enforcement revenue collected up to the end of March quarter for this financial year? And do you have locations for this enforcement collection? In other words, where are the hotspots that we're enforcing?
Mary Osmond.
Through you, councillors, the infringement data is provided to councillors regularly. Do we have hotspots of where we collect that data? That's not something that we have been reporting on.
CEO wants to comment on this.
So the quarterly community report includes the parking data and the parking revenue. Activity centres are included in that, but hotspot data isn't, councillors. Primarily it's operational, but also it's a risk management issue.
On this issue,
health and safety issue.
On this issue of people interested in parking enforcement, the money that we're raising, and also anything to do with the Wellington Street, the documentation that we've used, you might think it's not enough. Quite happy to get that to you if you just email me tomorrow. Anybody in the audience who wants more information on either of those topics, and I'll flick it across to you. Alex Lamb's in the house. Alex, welcome. And just press the button, please.
Is that working? Yeah. My question is about the state congestion levy funding. So my understanding is the Yarra City Council gets $3 million a year from the state government to spend on active travel upgrades. And my understanding is the Wellington Street project is eligible for that funding because it is an active travel upgrade. However, if only minor modifications proceed, such as road resurfacing, that would have to come out of a different revenue stream. Is that correct?
Very interesting question. The CEO is going to respond to that. Alex.
I think thanks for the question. If the essence of the question is what will the funding that has been announced from the congestion levy, what will that be applicable to? The honest answer is we don't know. We've contacted the state government multiple times, and in fact, I wrote to the Secretary of Department of Transport just this week to seek confirmation. All we've seen is a piece of correspondence from a local member and a very limited information. So I just can't answer that question at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alex. I think I've got everyone. Have I missed out anyone? Public question time? No? Okay, thank you all who've asked the question. We'll move on to the Council Business Report, starting with 7.1, the draft budget 2026-27 and the long-term financial plan. I might just stop the meeting for 30 seconds. If any of you want to leave now, you're really welcome to stay. It's riveting stuff. But if you want to leave now, leave, and then you won't sort of disturb the next bit of the agenda. We'll just start up again in 20 seconds. And in the meantime, the officers are going to come to the front if there's any questions from councillors on the budget. There are no registered speakers on this item, FYI. We've got a lack of chairs here. Can everybody just leave the room? If you're leaving, can you just leave? Because the noise is coming up the front here. Thank you. You can talk outside. Liam, can you just gather just try and, yeah, thanks, mate. Councillors, we've got no registrations here. Any questions on this? I'm quite happy to move the officer's report. Seconded Councillor Harrison. So if there are no questions, I'll just move the report. Okay, so basically what this is, we're releasing for public input the draft budget. You might think the budget is the worst thing in the world, the best thing in the world. That's not really the point. This vote tonight is about releasing it to the public. There's very, very dark economic clouds over the council at the moment. We know the petrol's gone up by almost 40% at its peak, 100% with diesel, the general inflation situation, the cost of living crisis, and here in Victoria, we've got the double whammy of the $10.5 million in cost shifting from the state government, the congestion tax, $636,000 hit to this council, and massively rising costs to pick up our bins from the provider that we use. I'll come back to that point. So in the context of all of that, I'm extremely proud of a budget that, number one, has no cuts to services. I don't think any other council in Victoria will be having a budget that can say that. The second thing is we're continuing to not offload the increase in waste charges to local residents and local businesses. That's going to save you $3.6 million. We're going to wear that. The reason it's gone up so much is the provider has jacked up their fees for the bins to be picked up by around $5 million a year over the next 10 years. The third thing is we're having in this draft budget a 40% increase in capital works. It's 15% higher than the previous record. So you're going to get more children's services, more parks, more sports facilities, and that's absolutely vital as the population grows and grows. It's expected to double if we follow the state government instruction to approve 44,000 new homes in Yarra. We're also looking to have a cleaner Yarra. We're spending $1.2 million in this budget on graffiti removal, $750,000, I should say, on new trees, and $750,000 on increasing money on garden bed maintenance, which is desperately needed if you walk through the streets of Yarra. The final thing is on the free parking. At the moment, we've got a trial, 1 hour free parking trial in Richmond, in Swan Street, Bridge Road and Victoria Street. In this budget, we want to expand that north to include Gertrude Street, Smith Street, and also obviously Brunswick Street for 30 minutes. Now, I've been inundated with all different points of view. We shouldn't be doing it at all. We should have 1 hour everywhere. We shouldn't do Swan Street, this and that. And what we're going to be doing is listening to you. So over the course of the next few weeks, I'll be out in every ward talking to people about the budget. I'm sure all the councillors will be doing that. We really, really want your input. So have a look at it. It's going to go on the website tonight if this motion is passed. Email in any questions, any comments to any or all of the councillors, especially myself as mayor. On the 2nd of June, there's going to be a special meeting, council meeting, only on this issue that you can come and have your say on, and then we'll have the final vote on the 16th of June. So we've got heaps of time to get your input to say, listen, the budget's okay, but I want to make this or that change. So with that, I'll finish speaking and I'll hand over to Deputy Mayor Harrison to second the motion.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm really proud of this budget too. It's been very trying circumstances getting to the point we're at, but I think the thing that's really important for me is that this has been a year-long process, even more that we've actually been receiving a lot of feedback over the last 12 months, and I feel very proud that we've endeavoured as far as possible to feed all of that feedback into the budget. So when we talk about the additional $750,000 that's being invested in garden bed maintenance and our open spaces, that is something that community members across Yarra have been asking for. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to do that. There's been, I was part of the Citizens Park Working Group. There are, some small bits of money in the budget that were actually progressing what the community members who participated in the working group asked for. People have been speaking to me about the sporting clubs. There's multiple sporting clubs who are being supported with their facilities here. $100,000 for pitch renewal at Loughton Oval. There's $125,000 for renewal of sports field lighting at Citizens Park. $80,000 for outdoor exercise equipment at Burnley Park. $500,000 for an upgrade of play spaces at Annette's Place. There's also $1.225 million for construction of turf and irrigation at Fletcher 1. These are all things that community members have been asking for. It's also about building the Yarra for the future. We're going to have a lot more people. We've been talking about that over the last 12 months. So we're really very much continuing in what we said we were going to do. And, I really welcome the feedback, but I'm very confident because we've actually been out hearing from people for, since the start of the council term about what our priorities should be. And I hope that that is reflected in what is in the budget tonight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor. So I reiterate everything that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor have said. Doing the budget every year is one of the most important things that your councillors do. So you elect us to work out how to spend money effectively and for the best benefit of the community. So look at the budget carefully. We have been amazed by the amount of feedback we get from the community. I think it's a great sign of an active community that's working with us. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you think is missing for your particular areas. We will hear that next month. It's important that you participate in that process if you can. I'd like to just make one point, is that while we're looking at beautifying the areas, cleaning up graffiti, we're also trying to make sure we look after the community, both now and in the future. So for now, we've maintained our investment in the community grants program. There are lots of communities or sub-communities within our community that need help. We give it to them. We've maintained that. And the second one is we're also keeping an eye on climate change and trying to figure out how to manage that. So you'll see in there pretty boring stuff, which is more investment in maintaining our stormwater for the expected increased storm activity we'll get through climate change. And also you'll notice, many of you, you'll see a lot more electric vehicle charging options. So they'll be mounted on poles, they'll be on streets, and that's our attempt to cater for a growing population and a community that's evolving to cope with the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Councillor Davies.
So look, I'm maintaining the rate cap. This is a guarantee I gave as a Richmond councillor back to my community, but it does come with some conditions because the rate cap is now 2.75%. And the bottom line is we can't spend more than we earn, whether it's now or into the future. And we can't ignore the impact of international affairs, which are about to take full effect on our community and our council. The rising waste charges at $3.6 million, as the Mayor just said, is unfortunately only the tip of the iceberg. Further waste and fuel charges and inflationary impacts such as wage increases are about to impact nearly every aspect of our council, and nearly every and all council services will be impacted. To suggest that this council services will not be impacted, honestly, with the greatest respect to the Mayor, it's ignoring reality. Right now, that might not be the case, but in a year's time, mark my words, this budget will not be sustainable if we keep spending like this. Our local business community is seeing cost of living pressure bite, with rising costs due to fuel and disrupted supply chains, and now the uncertainty of 1 hour parking just being ripped out of Richmond without any consideration to the damage to family-owned and operated local businesses or our local Richmond economy will be disastrous. And the irreversible loss of trust in this council cannot be understood completely. I've called for council assets prepared for sale to reduce our $27 million a year spent on renewing our assets. I've called on councillors to support the addressing the equivalent of 72% of your rates being spent on wages in this budget. Not just this year, but for the next 4 years. I've called on a halt of childcare cost increases for people on a combined income of $128,000 or less, which was achieved in last year's budget, but that is no more. I've asked that we do not cover costs by pushing up charges and fees, and yes, some are at the rate cost, but some are not, and many are not, 3% and 4% and 5%. So take a look at the rates and charges because nothing comes for free. Meanwhile, you might want to just check the software costs. This year alone, $18.2 million being spent on software. That's $666 over 3 years for every single ratepayer that sits here today. That is just inexcusable. We had a choice, we had a voting choice, and I was the one that chose not to vote for that. Make that be registered. As Cremorne, I've been asking for our share of footpaths and road repairs. In this budget, we just see a tiny little trickle of stormwater, but we see Elthing and Bowles, $1 million. Brunswick Oval, $3 million. Victoria Street, $100,000. $6 million on Collingwood Leisure Centre. Brunswick festivals, but no AFL festival contemplated in this budget.
Your time has run out, Councillor.
No parks, no free parking, no policies to deliver roads.
You can't talk longer than anyone else. You're not any better than anyone else. We all get 3 minutes and 3 minutes only. Would anyone else like to speak on this matter? Okay, I'll exercise my right of reply. When I spoke on this budget, the one that I'm very proud of, I said there are no cuts to services in this budget. That is absolute fact. So either Councillor Davies is telling the truth or I'm telling the truth. We can't both be telling the truth. So go and look at this budget tomorrow morning or tonight on the council website. And if you see any cuts to services, I'll resign by midday tomorrow as Mayor of Yarra. He's talking absolute nonsense. There is no cuts to services.
Point of order.
I apologise for saying he's talking on. What's your point of order?
My point of order, I didn't say that there was cuts to services in this year's budget. I pointed to the fact that it was unsustainable in the future and there'll be cuts going forward in the future. That's what I pointed to, Mayor.
There will be no cuts on my watch. Not last year, not this year. The second point that Councillor Davies made is that we're spending like drunken socialists, essentially. But it's Councillor Davies who's out there arguing that we should have 1 hour free parking for all of Richmond, for all of Smith Street, for all of Gertrude Street.
Point of order, sorry. Point of order, Mayor, I have never agreed that it should be in Smith Street or Gertrude Street or Brunswick Street. That was your post on social media, that was not mine.
Well,
so I'm sorry, but that's actually incorrect and spreading misinformation on my views.
Thank you for your point of order. That's actually not a point of order, that's an alternative point of view. That's even worse. So we have a councillor who's elected, as all of us are, to look after the interests of Yarra, who's consciously saying, I only want free parking for one suburb. How can that be justified?
Point of order again.
The second
point of again. I'm sorry. No, but
you cannot do a point of order.
I am not saying.
Disagree with what I'm saying.
You're putting words into my mouth, Mayor. I am saying it needs to be based on need, like we deal with grants and community and all sorts of community investment, whether roads, bikes, or anything.
This is my right of reply to your nonsense, and you will not be interrupting me anymore. I'll ask you to leave the room. For the first time in 24 years, a council will have to be. You can't do this. The main thing that you're saying is that your ward is being shortchanged. Well, I did some digging over the course of the weekend, and I looked at the capital works expenditure for last year and the capital works expenditure for this year. There's 9 wards, so on average, every ward should get roughly around 11%. Both last year and this year, Lennox ward got over the odds, more than 11%. More this year, actually, a higher percentage this year than it did last year. 14% this year, 12% last year. Why did we do that? Because we did realise that in the past we were of the view that Richmond was shortchanged by the previous councils. So we make no apologies about that. But the facts do not support what Councillor Davies is saying, that his ward is missing out on capital works. And again, If you don't believe what I'm saying, go to the City of Yarra website and look at last year's budget and the draft budget, which will be dropped on the website tonight, or look at the stats that I digged out. So, actually, I've run out of time, so I'm going to have to leave it at that. What we're doing now, that this vote, just for your information, is to release the budget, the draft budget, so the community can have a look at it. And I'd encourage you to do so very, very carefully. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Anyone against releasing the budget? Okay, so the Councillor Davies does not want the public to see the budget. Let that be on the minutes of this meeting. That is passed. Okay, the next thing is we're going to go on to 7.2, which is Collingwood Town Hall project. We've got 4 people registered to speak. So we'll start with the first one, who is Ania Kudlicki, and I do apologise if I've mispronounced your name.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I think you've heard from me already from a couple of submissions I've made regarding this. I will simply make a statement on the process of the Collingwood Town Hall affordable housing proposal, and I will also talk to the officers' report. Now, effectively, we looked at, or we were notified in December last year, which was slightly unfortunate because it was just before Christmas, of a possible sale or lease for affordable housing. Now, we were looking at 8 stories, which was a part of the parameters, 50 dwellings minimum, limited parking, and obviously the affordable housing component. Now, there was no mention of the planning process moving forward. There was no mention of how 8 stories or a minimum of 50 dwellings was, how that originated. Also, there was no mention of activation of the ground level, no details on the bedroom numbers, and how this will impact on the residents surrounding the area. There was also no mention of other sites in the City of Yarra being reviewed. I attended both pop-up sessions asking questions of the council officers. I didn't get any response in terms of how the planning process would be done moving forward. I had advised that this component that you are looking at would be something that a developer could push straight through to the Minister for Planning, meaning the responsible authority would be cut out of the process and the residents would be cut out of the process in terms of speaking or giving an opinion on the proposal. My opinion is I have no problem with the affordable housing. My problem is I will be cut out and my neighbouring residents will be cut out of the planning process in terms of an 8-storey building. Now we're looking at 69 dwellings in an 8-storey building. So it's moved from 50 to 69. We don't know how many car spaces will be provided. We already have a huge issue with parking in the area. The enforcement unit, which I have now logged over 40 submissions for cars to be checked because they don't provide a permit, that's never done. And I'm advised that
30 seconds.
It is working well. Thank you. I would implore you to look into these issues before you ratify this decision, because in ratifying this decision to go out to expressions of interest, you are effectively locking out the residents from commenting on this. It's a heritage area. Collingwood Town Hall, state significant. Heritage buildings surrounding it. An 8-storey building in that area, it should be on a main road, if anywhere.
Annie,
Lower
you've
the
run out of
building.
time. Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Peter Fry.
My name is Peter Fry. Mr Mayor, I believe the primary purpose of the City of Yarra Council, which is elected by the residents of the city, is to provide amenities for the residents. This includes waste management, street maintenance, parks and gardens, facilities for the benefit of residents. It does not include providing subsidised accommodation for people who presently work in the city but live elsewhere so they can move closer to their workplace. The scarcest and most precious amenity in a densely populated area such as Collingwood is open space and greenery. The proposed building will eliminate a significant area of this in a very sensitive area which is next to the historic Collingwood Town Hall. The precinct is particularly busy and parking is scarce at present. Apart from residents attending the Town Hall for council business, there is also the library, police station and church. Very important for many residents is the Willow View Centre. Yarra City resident friends of mine are in the mid-80s and visit the centre on Wednesdays for activities there. They must drive and park at the centre as one requires a walker to travel a distance from her car to the centre. The area is exceptionally well serviced by public transport, with the Collingwood train station at the site, a dedicated bus lane in Hoddle Street, trams nearby in Victoria and Smith Street. Close to the Town Hall are several Housing Commission towers. The council would be better serve existing ratepayers by using that accommodation rather than adding a new high-rise, which is totally out of keeping with the area of the Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. The next person is Mark Baolu. Welcome, Mark.
Yes.
Can you just press the button, please, Mark? I can't. Just try, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah. My name's Mark. I'm a resident of Yarra. I live 1 block away from the site of this key affordable workers accommodation high-rise, and I'm a regular user of the Dream Centre and the community spaces in the precinct. I'm speaking tonight to object the proposed lease of land on Eddy Court and ask the council to look clearly at what its own officer's report is telling it. I want to acknowledge that there is a housing crisis and I support affordable housing, but this site, this process and their proposal have fundamental problems, and I ask the councillors to hear them. First, the community has spoken. Clearly, your consultation found 46% of all respondents oppose this project, but among the residents of Abbotsford and Collingwood, the people who actually live close next to this site, 57% oppose it, and only 31% support it. That is not a close result. That is the community you are here to represent, and telling you plainly. Second, the project has no funding pathway. Your own officer's reports states that this site at minimum 50 dwellings is ineligible for HAFF round 3 funding. The primary federal funding stream is available. That stream, the housing diversity stream, is already oversubscribed. The development sector itself told your officers that without grant funding, it may be difficult to make this project economically feasible. You are being asked tonight to set this process in motion to release an EOI that, once underway, creates its own momentum. The community will have no further formal say once that door is open. Third, this proposal risks harming people with disability and limited mobility. Your own report names its users are the Willawoo and Deering Centre. Many of them rely on that public parking and have raised concerns that losing it may mean they are no longer able to attend. As someone who lives here and depends on these spaces, this is not a minor inconvenience. This is exclusion. The project,
30 seconds.
Yeah, the project perimeters are explicit. No community infrastructure is required as part of this development. This community place risks losing public parking, green space, community gardens with no guarantee of replacement. Fourth, if this proceeds, the planning voice is sidelined. The anticipated planning is in the state government's developed facilitation program, meaning the minister and this council would become a responsible authority.
Mark, your time has run out. Thank you for your submission. The next person is Jenny Bacheler. Welcome, Jenny.
Hello, is that on? Hi, my name's Jenny Backola. I'm a former Collingwood councillor and mayor back in the last century. I'm not sure whether any of you folk were around the area in any of these roles in 1991, but I just wanted to start by saying that I'm speaking against the proposal because I think there needs to be a very big strategic review of that whole site. That really goes between Vere Street and Stanton Street. I was on the council when we were able to purchase that block of land from the Church Trust. We purchased it for $520,000, and I know because I moved it, and $520,000 seemed an enormous amount at the time, but the council voted for it because of the strategic possibilities of having that land next to the town hall. Now, after the amalgamation, we didn't know where the town hall was going to be, but it went to Richmond. However, there is still a package of land there, and I just wanted to say that I think all councillors, before voting on something like this, should really understand the strategic development opportunities of that whole site. I'm not even sure if any of you know the site all that well. I went down and had another look at it again and to try and work out what's owned there, and I've done this cruddy little map here, but I'm sure that there's a better one that your officers could produce. But it seems to me that the council owns all of that site except for the St Philip's Church properties. Now, that is a huge site. There's the sailors, in my original objection to this, when I wrote in, I said that I think it's madness to do any development proposal that doesn't include Soldiers and Sailors building. That building is falling down. It's unoccupied, and heritage and all sorts of other reasons mean it can't be used. It's a total waste of a council asset. And then on the corner, there's the sculpture gallery at 117 Vere Street. Go and have a look at it. I think really all of the councillors should go and have a look at all of those buildings so that they know what we're dealing with. That's got a sign up saying that there's no authorised entry, not used. Same at 119 to 123. Next to that is a house, 125, that looks derelict, and next to it is 127 Vere.
30 seconds.
That is, I'm pretty sure it's occupied by, it used to be occupied by one of the council hall keepers. So I'm sure that that whole area, and coming back here, this direction after the Soldiers and Sailors building, there's the St Philip's Church and Vicarage, there's that area of land that wasn't bought to be parkland, but it's being used like that at the moment, and then that adjoins the town hall. So as you can see, it's a huge
Jenny,
area.
Just one more sentence. As an ex-mayor, you get an extra little bit.
That you don't make any decision about this until you've done a full strategic analysis of the site.
Thank you, Jenny. Have we got any questions, councillors, to the officers on this matter? Councillor Gomez.
Through you, Mayor, thank you. Just a couple of questions raised by residents. So the first question was, why are we sort of proposing to use the Development Facilitation Program? Is there a reason for that? And second question, so you can answer it together. By voting for it tonight, if we approve it, are we locking ourselves into using that DFP process?
Thank you. Through you, Mr Mayor. The Development Facilitation Program, I guess, is a way to de-risk the project. You'll see in the report that the project has some challenges in terms of being attractive to the market. And the Development Facilitation Program provides more certainty around timeframes for delivery should the project be approved by the responsible authority, which would be, in that case, the Minister for Planning. If, at the conclusion of the expression of interest, if there was an approach that the councillors were happy with in terms of selecting a partner to deliver the project, there will be a further council resolution. So at that point in time, council could resolve a different planning pathway, but that would be challenging because the expression of interest we're trying to provide certainty for potential submitters. That's one of the reasons about being really clear in this resolution that that's the preferred pathway. If at a later resolution there was a different planning pathway put forward, it may be that the preferred leaseholder would be no longer interested.
Another question?
Just a follow-up, Rachel. So I understand what you're saying. So if we go to EOI saying that our preferred development pathway is a DFP, am I right in saying that we don't make that decision? That decision is made by effectively the Department of Planning or the Planning Minister, correct?
That's correct. Yes, the Department and the Minister would make that decision. The DFP does provide an opportunity for public consultation. So I know there was a few comments tonight that is removed through the DFP, but the DFP does allow for submissions.
Councillor Gomez, is that it? Yeah. Any other questions, councillors? Okay, I'm very happy to move the officer recommendation. Councillor Gomez will second that. I'll speak to that. I think the responsibility of this council is not only to the people that normally come to these meetings, that submit when we have, council consultations and so on. In other words, people who are, say, over the age of 40, who are property owners, people who are the backbone of the input that we normally get at these type of meetings, but also about the forgotten people. There's half of Yarra that are young and half of Yarra that rent. And anyone who knows anything about young people in Yarra and renters in Yarra, and indeed in the whole of Australia, knows that young people who are born and bred in this area, many of whom went to school in this area, born and bred in this area, as I said before, and now work in this area and provide the backbone of the local economy, are being priced out of Yarra. They can't afford the rents, and buying a house, unless they get it given to them by a dead grandparent or parent, is out of the question. They've been priced out of the area. This is happening in all the inner cities of all the major cities in the Western world as we speak. And that's why, for example, in the City of Melbourne election, the Green mayoral candidate said that if they won, they would use council land to try and help those people with housing in the missing middle. Mandami in America has done the same thing, specifically on car parks like this one is. So what we're talking about here is not public and social housing, on the one hand, which we as a council unanimously support keeping the towers. We're opposed to the demolition of the towers by the state government, or almost unanimously at least. And then on the other hand, those who can afford to rent and buy in Yarra, good luck to them. That's great if you can do that. I can do that. But there's a missing middle. And they're the people who are the backbone of this local economy. I make zero apologies for this project. This is the most exciting thing I've ever done in 22 years, if we get it through. On a car park, we're building land with a 25% reduction in market rent. Can you imagine if you're 24 years old and you're a barista, or you're working in a bar, or working even here for council, anyone at that age, trying to, a one bedroom in Fitzroy now would be at least 610 a week, I should say. 25% reduction in rent is life-changing. And all we're doing tonight is putting out to the market. If there's no interest in the market, it won't go anywhere, and that'll be the end of it. But we have to do that, because we have to, as a council, not just look after the interests of homeowners, but also for the forgotten people. And they are overwhelmingly young, and they're overwhelmingly renters. And that's what this motion is about. And that's why I'm encouraging my colleagues to vote for us to go out for an EOI. It's only the first of many steps. And if you totally disagree with everything I've said, you will get many, many more chances to try and convince council not to go ahead with that. But this is just putting it out to the market over the course of the next few weeks, if it's passed. Thank you. Councillor Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor. I reflect on the process that occurred in Nichols Ward, or Fitzroy North, the ward I'm responsible for. Before I became a councillor, the community worked very hard to try and define the planning envelope around what is called a gasworks site. It's a block of land north of the Officeworks site in Fitzroy North. And we worked very hard at the time to try and make sure that the apartment mix there, the housing mix there, would include many other options such as school and sporting facilities, but most importantly, affordable and social housing. And at the time, many years ago, we were able to get a commitment from the state government of 20%. So I have seen up close a community work very hard to try and make sure that we can provide some options for affordable housing. It's not easy. It's very expensive, as the Mayor has pointed out. So I'm hoping that this process, like it did for the gasworks site, where we were able to get 1,450 apartments, 20% of which will be affordable or social, that this process can also generate that feelings in the community of trying to support new people, younger people, key workers, however you define them, being able to enjoy the benefits of living in Yarra, in the city that we do. So I commend this motion, which, as the Mayor has said, is merely the next step in an investigation of what the market may or may not respond with, to my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Councillor Davies.
Yep. Very clearly, the Mayor and I have some differences of opinion at times on particular things, like budgets, but on this one, I think we agree. I think we agree that we have to represent people who are being priced out, that we have to address the missing middle, as he put it. And as Ken Gomez said, we have to enable key workers to stay in inner city. This project does have challenges, absolutely. I have big concerns about its challenge, especially in this day and age, with all the costs that we've just discussed and I've raised in the budget conversation earlier. Scale is one thing. That's probably its key concern or key challenge, and that obviously has played a role in its funding challenges as well. But I do agree with the Mayor on the social benefits of a project like this. I just wish it was a lot bigger. I will be supporting it. Ultimately, the market will decide, and we'll get down that road to the next step, and then we can relook at it. So I'm happy to support it on this next step.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Okay, I will not exercise my right of reply, so we'll just go straight to the vote. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. We'll move on to 7, and thank you, the 4 people who made their submissions. Thank you. We're moving on to 7.3, Community Engagement Policy Review. There are no registrations to speak. Are there any questions to the officers on this agenda item? No? I'm looking for a way forward. Is anyone, Councillor Crossan moving the officer recommendation? Deputy Mayor is seconding it. Councillor Crossan, you've got 3 minutes to speak to it if you so wish, starting now.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by saying thank you so much to staff who have worked on this. I can really appreciate all the time and effort that's gone into it. Council's really keen to hear from the community, and by undertaking this review, it's been an opportunity to review how we engage and the kind of feedback that we receive, and in turn, how it informs the decisions we make. In particular, I think it's really interesting around some of the new updates that are proposed and how this will, again, benefit us collectively. I'm also particularly interested in the priority areas that have been identified for underrepresentation, including the development of target strategies to engage with these people, including people with a disability, renters, culturally and linguistically diverse people, and young residents from Yarra. All in all, I think this is a really exciting outcome. And once again, thank you to community members that have participated, and thank you to staff and all the work you've done.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Harrison, seconding.
Yes, look, I just want to reiterate the point around actually the 4 priority areas. I was very enthusiastic when this was put up, when we first heard about this. You know, we've had some consultations that haven't had a lot of people to participate, so I really appreciate the focus on particular groups to improve the diversity of people who are actually participating in our consultations. And I'm I'm very excited to see this go ahead, and we'll see where it goes. But I think it can only be good if we're getting a greater diversity of the population involved.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this matter? Okay, there's no right of reply in that situation, so we put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. We move on to 7.4, Economic Development Strategy Stage 2, Community Engagement. There are no registrations to speak. Are there any questions to officers? Councillor Davies.
Afternoon. I'm pointing to the document, and thanks for preparing it all, page 332, 5, parking, length of stay. I'd just like to confirm some data here. The data is looking at Bridge Road, Swan Street and Victoria Street, but I'll just focus in on Swan for the minute. We can also talk about Bridge, just so we understand the charts here and that my interpretation of the data is correct. So when we're looking at Swan Street, we're looking at length of stay in... Yeah, sorry. Oh, I thought we just passed...
We're talking about the economic development strategy.
No, that was the community.
No, it's the next agenda item.
I was just looking for the attachment. No, it's fine.
Okay, no worries. All right.
This is Echo Dev.
Echo. So we're on 7.4, economic development strategy. Are there any questions to officers on this agenda item? Councillor Gomez.
Do your work. Do the work.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. So it's a softball question. Thank you for the EcoDev report. I know it's been a lot of effort. I know you commissioned some independent research. It's a softball question. Has the team been able to glean some high-level feedback from our business advisory committee, made up of, I believe, many members of our local businesses across Yarra?
Thank you for the question, through the Mayor. We have been able to take the high-level strategic directions and themes to the Business Advisory Committee, and the support overall was very positive for the document that we'd created. Then we went to them in February this year, and we plan to go to that Advisory Committee with targeted engagement in the second round.
Okay, I believe we've got an alternative way forward. Councillor Gomez?
I do, yes.
Have you got a seconder for that? No? That lapses. Deputy Mayor Harrison? Okay, Councillor Gomez, do you want to just let us know what it is? Have you given it to the officers for the screen, or do you want to just tell us what it is?
I'll just introduce it. So essentially, it's a motion to consider a deferral of the release of the economic development strategy, mainly because I as the chair, or one of the chairs of the the Business Advisory Committee, would like a little bit more solid feedback on the specific strategic drivers and the initiatives contained in the EcoDev strategy.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Harrison, in seconding. Not yet. I've got a question from the CEO to you, if that's all right. You don't have to answer it, but it's up to you.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, just Councillor Gomez, can you just confirm with the alternate motion, or the motion that you've moved, is it your intention that officers bring a report back in 2 months, or that in 2 months that we release it for broader community engagement, just go straight to community engagement?
No report needed from my perspective. As the chair of the Business Advisory Committee, the reason why I asked for 2 months is that it would include a time when we were meeting as a committee.
Oh, go ahead.
It would help, Councillor Gomez, if you could make that clear in the motion, please.
Do you want to make it clearer, or are you happy with it as it is? It's up to you.
I'm in your hands, CEO. If you feel that there's additional language needed in the motion, I'm more than happy to entertain it.
No, that'll start a precedent, and the whole thing will turn to shit. So, can we just ask the CEO to quickly amend 1B and ask the mover and seconder if that's acceptable?
Sorry, Mayor?
Councillor Crossland.
Should we perhaps have a 5-minute break?
Yeah, why not? Any objections to that? All right, we'll come back at 8:08. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We've had a 5-minute break. Councillor Gomez, we're in your hands. Do you accept that change?
I just need to get it to
All right, so just for those of you who came late, we're on Economic Development Strategy Stage 2, Community Engagement. We've had the motion moved and seconded with a slight amendment, which the governance will whack on the screen, and then we will see if there's anyone who wants to talk, and then we'll vote on it. Councillor Gomez, can you just maybe verbally tell everybody what the gist of the change to your motion is, please?
The change? Okay, so for everyone who's listening in, I've just had a discussion with the responsible officer, executive officer. We're trying to recraft my amendment to allow for a shorter time frame, but still allow for the merit of having the Business Advisory Committee have a look at the specifics in the EcoDev strategy, the strategic directions, and the initiatives that come out of that, because it'll affect them. They live this. They are small businesses who are operating in Yarra, and so I'm very keen that our strategy basically is vetted by them. Vetted is probably the wrong word. It's in no way a reflection on the staff at all. It is merely taking advantage of the opportunity.
Given us, yeah, thank you. Officers, have we got that? Surely it can't be that complicated. Are we close? Okay, so we've got the changed motion to defer from Councillor Gomez and Deputy Mayor Harrison. They've moved it and seconded it already. Does anyone want to speak to this? No. Okay, does anyone want to speak on this matter? No. You've already spoken to it. Haven't you moved it? Didn't you move it? No? Okay. Councillor Gomez, you've got 3 minutes starting now.
So, thank you, Mayor. So, as I've probably iterated a couple of times, I want to thank the officers for the work. It's been an extensive amount of effort, including engaging with an independent consultant, and they've presented the high-level thinking behind the EcoDev strategy to us as councillors and to the Business Advisory Committee. I'm merely asking for a short delay so that we can formally ask our Business Advisory Committee what their views are about this. They run and operate small and medium-sized businesses throughout Yarra. They have volunteered their time, and they're very busy people, to provide guidance to us. And I think it's only fair and reasonable that we ask them. It's no way a reflection on our officers. I know they would do that, but I want to make it explicitly clear that we value their view, and we will try and get their views through the means by which we communicate with them, and then we'll release it to the wider community. I've written this motion, so effectively the economic development strategy will be released to the community, but I want to give the Business Advisory Committee a 1 month head start. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Harrison, seconding? No? Anyone else want to speak to this motion? Okay, put it to the floor. Those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. Moving straight along to 7.5, 1 hour free parking trial, quarterly, third quarter update. We've got one registered speaker, Joe Gagliano. Welcome back, Joe. And just press that button and you've got 3 minutes to speak.
I promise I'm not a one-trick pony about parking. As mentioned by the Mayor, council revenue is massively under pressure. Parking really is one hell of a way of actually getting more revenue for the council. The council has spent over a number of years several $1 million installing sensors, but a lot of them are just not used. And on my walks around the whole area, I see often cars on one side of the street where they have zones only for permits, they're booked, but the other side where sensors are supposed to be sensing 1 hour maximum, a lot of the time cars on that side are not booked. That means, again, we're losing millions of dollars of revenue each year. The enforcement for a lot of the cars is for enforcement for cars from outside the council. So whilst the financial pressure is on the community of Victoria all over, we've got to focus on Yarra's interests, the council and the residents. So if we have a better enforcement, it just means that it would benefit Yarra revenues. By foregoing millions of dollars per year in easily enforced fines, that potentially limits the longer and ongoing trial of 1 hour free parking, an initiative pushed by Councillor Davies and supported by most of the councillors, trying to increase business and the streets for businesses in the Yarra. The trial is crucial and must be considered to be extended. It can be helped if traffic enforcement throughout the council is actually better enforced. That's millions of dollars for the council, and cross-subsidising will help this trial, of course. I talk from a resident having been born in Richmond in the early 60s, my dad having bought the house in 1956, and Richmond being an extremely proud place, and to see it just absolutely dying in Bridge Road and in Victoria Street is so sad, and we've got to try whatever initiative we can to help the local businesses, local residents, by increasing revenue through parking, which will then help a lot more.
30 seconds.
A lot more for the trials.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, councillors, any questions to the officers? Councillor Davies.
Okay. So just pointing to page 332, number 5, parking length of stay. I'll just, in terms of what we're looking at here, if you could just confirm, for Bridge, Swan and Victoria Street, we're looking at blocks of 15 minutes up to 2 hours and beyond sometimes. Can you confirm, just for the viewers at home, in terms of, say, for instance, if you're looking at Swan Street, on the first 0 to 15 minutes or the, say, the 45 to 60 minutes, are we just confirming that's, like, for example, halfway through the 15 minutes, it would be 25,000 events, parking events. Is that what we're talking about with these charts? Is that how we should understand them?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Davies. Through you, Chair, the data you're referring to, which is figure 20, is specifically in relation to the length of time a ticket is taken as opposed to the length of a stay. The length of stay data is at the start of the attachment. So really, this data is all about, it really demonstrates that more people are taking a ticket for a full 60 minutes knowing that they won't have to pay it all, so that it's not actually showing or giving us data on whether people are staying for 60 minutes or not.
So just a question, when you're saying a ticket, what exactly does that mean? I'm sorry.
Thank you for the question. So it's the length of time people are entering into the parking meter that they would like to stay for. So this shows that most people, because of the free parking trial, are opting to have to put in 60 minutes into the meter to take advantage of the potential for a full hour. It doesn't mean that they are staying for the full hour.
And thank you, but is there any way for us to determine how people would stay or not stay in it?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to clarify, Councillor Davies. Through you, Mayor, that is in the first set of data. So in the figures from page 310, I believe it is, at the start of the attachment, that shows the actual occupancy trends that we've seen compared to last year as a result of the trial.
Thank you. Any more? I've got a question to Ms Osman. Last Wednesday, you emailed the councillors and in relation to this report tonight, just to give us a bit of bad news, I guess, and I'll quote from your email, further analysis of the third quarter data, including a detailed review of transaction level impacts, indicates that the projected revenue loss is higher than previously estimated. That is for the expansion in a modified form of the free parking trial. The revised estimate is now approximately $2 million for the scenario of expanding the trial for 30 minutes, not 1 hour, into 3 additional streets. So can you just expand on that? So, and tell me if I've misunderstood the email. So it's $2 million cost to council if we have 30 metres across the 6 streets. And would that be double if we did 1 hour across the 6 streets? Can you just go through a few scenarios with that, please? Because this is new information.
Through you, Mayor, that is correct. So we've done some further analysis, and that's through the benefit of having 3/4 of data to be able to analyse. And we've established that if a trial for 30 minutes across the 6 centres were to be applied, the cost to council would be in the order of $2 million. If you were to extrapolate that out to a 1 hour trial across the 6 centres, we are estimating that cost could be between $3 to $5 million to council.
Thank you. Are there any other questions to council officers? I've got Councillor Davies.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yep. So I just want to confirm some data here. Just because I'm looking at, I'll come back to that page 5, but also in reference to the business revenue. So I just want to confirm that during the trial, we've seen the increase of Swan Street in particular across discretionary, tourism and food. Can you confirm that the average business revenue is 25.6% increase since the trial? Is that how I should understand that revenue by month and street? Page 320? 320?
Can we just have some clarification which page you're referring to?
I don't think it's the average business. It's the total increase rather than the average business has had 25% improvement.
Yep. So okay. So when it says total business, is that what you're talking about there?
I think increased revenue totaling for that street.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Across those 3, across discretionary, tourism, and food retail. Is that right? It's combined?
Officers, can you help us out here?
Yeah, thank you for the question through the chair. So the total businesses is for the area precinct of Swan Street for the trial area. So there is a change and uplift of 25.6%.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted to confirm, because when I'm looking at coming back to page 332, parking length of stay, I've done some hard numbers on these, and if I'm looking at Swan Street, if I do an average, it's averaging out between 28 to 30%. Because obviously the chart's not data; it's a chart rather than data, I should say. The usage increase is roughly 28 to 30%. Is that correct? So in other words, Swan Street from 0 to 2 hours, the increase in tickets, whatever you want to call it, stays, the usage increases by 28 to 30%?
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Through you, Mayor. So table 3 in the attachment, which gives the occupancy rate specifically for Swan Street, and it shows with green and with red where there has been an increase or decrease in occupancy compared to the same quarter last financial year, is probably the better spot to look for that data. That shows that on Swan Street specifically, through the course of the trial, there has been a mixed result at different hours of the day in terms of increase or decrease in occupancy. During the business hours of, say, 9 to 5, at most times, most days of the week, there has been an increase in occupancy shown. That varies between sort of 0 up to different percents, but again, it varies across all hours and days. And then you can see early and late is when there's more decrease in occupancy.
Okay.
Have you got many more questions?
Yep, I do. Yeah. So just to come back to, and thank you for that. That's good to clarify. But I just want to come back to the parking length of stay document, just so I can clarify and confirm the data in those charts, do those charts represent an increase in length of stay events, quarter 1 to 3, of between 28 to 30%? If I'm looking at those charts, just those charts there? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Davies. All this data shows is that because there is now the opportunity for 1 hour free, instead of people selecting to 15 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes to pay, they've picked the full 60 minutes knowing that they will not have to pay for that. So it's just about the behaviour in the use of the ticket. This doesn't demonstrate the actual occupancy that's occurred.
Question, just unless someone else, vacancy. Just with the vacancy numbers, I just wanted to check, I did a bit of a head count, and I just wanted to just check, with the vacancy, when was the last sort of time that those records were sort of taken on the vacancy for Swan Street?
Yep, thank you for that
how
question.
recently?
Through the chair, is the last vacancy audit that was done in Swan Street was in February this year. Prior to that was November.
Okay, any other councillors or questions? Councillor Gomez.
Just a quick one, team. So on note 23, I think it's page 304, if that helps. It's a table 3, comparison of business revenue. So comparing the July to February 26 versus July to 25 the previous year. Despite offering 1 hour free parking, Bridge Road has not seen, in fact, it's seen a decrease in the amount of business revenue. Am I reading that correctly?
Thank you for the question. And through the chair, yes, that is how it has been read, is there is a decrease in spend in Bridge Road.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I'm looking for a way forward. We've got an officer report. Does anyone want to move it? No? Councillor Davies had his hand up first, and then the Deputy Mayor had her hand up second. But maybe I'll just ask Councillor Crossland to do it, only because you haven't had a chance to speak much tonight. So Councillor Davies, Councillor Crossland, you've got 3 minutes. Councillor Davies, starting now.
Sure. Thanks. Look, thank you, officers, for preparing this. I just want to point out straight off the top, number one, the trial has not been completed. So I think we need to be very careful as councillors to be making judgment calls on its success. That's the first point. I think by the second point, by the survey's own admission, they have not spoken with enough local businesses or captured enough data for an informed appraisal, and I think that's clear in the document. And I think we need to work towards a greater amount of data and capture points to understand, to get a better sense and of way of actually interpreting all this. I think also we just need to point out that if it's not working, because I think you can see some of the data would suggest that it probably is, if it's not working, then why wouldn't we put it in why would we give it to other wards? Unless it was based on need. Now, I would argue that it is working, although I still think we need more data, and that's probably why other parts of Yarra want it. And I want to be clear, Gertrude, Smith and Brunswick, happy to support that, but there needs to be a business case to support the need for the 1 hour parking there, just as we established that for Richmond here. I think we still need to look at the corresponding data between usage increase, as I just discussed, is about 28%, and business revenue increase of about 25.6% on Swan Street. We've seen an increase of revenue of businesses on Swan Street. That's a goal of the trial achieved. The second part is discretionary retail, tourism, entertainment and food retailing on Swan Street have all gone up. That's a second goal of this trial achieved. Okay. Now, vacancy, which we still look at, from Church to Swan, the vacancy is now lower than 6%. Now, when I ran for council, it was around 12 to 14%. The limited vacancies that are on Swan Street, and I want to point to Swan Street because it makes a point for Bridge Road, is the limited vacancies are either new builds, as in new retail offering, or long-term vacancies, more than 2 years, which is why I introduced the notice of motion for retail activation levy, to get these land-banked retails off the shelf and into business. So we see that 1 hour parking on Swan in particular has solved the short-term vacancy issue that we have had in the past. If you take away 1 hour parking from Swan, it will have a 25% impact on that local economy. That is what is clear from this data. You take it away, businesses will go away. What we see is a clear and demonstrated need for 1 hour parking in Swan that stimulates the Richmond activity strips. Okay, so let's look at Bridge Road and Victoria Street, which has massive long-term vacancy issues. That's why we need the retail activation levy.
Councillor Davies, your time has run out. Thank you. Councillor Crossland.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you very much to officers for an incredibly detailed and very insightful report. It's a pretty staggering read that the trial so far of 1 hour free parking for Bridge Road, Swan Street and Victoria Street has cost over $1.1 million for the period of July 2025 to March 2026, a paid revenue reduction of 61.57% for the financial year to date compared to the same financial period last year. And from that, there's been very little variation to vacancy levels, indicating that the free 1 hour parking hasn't notably improved vacancy rates. We're not seeing the benefits that you would hope that you would see from an initiative like this. One of the things that I found really interesting was that the independent research undertaken found that all the centres, the largest proportion of the community who were going there chose to walk, and that walkers, pedestrians, visited more often, and they also would go and spend more money in the weekly expenditures. So overall, people walking there were going more often and spending more money than people that were driving there. So just that point alone, and everything else that was outlined in the report, as we move forward, and as part of the draft budget process, noting I have supported that and I'm very keen to hear from the community on it, I implore my colleagues to consider how we move forward with free parking and whether there might be the opportunity to instead invest more in placemaking, streetscape upgrades and activation initiatives to make our activity centres better places for people to be in, to attract more people to walk to them, rather than to just give out free parking. So once again, thank you again to staff for this.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak? Councillor Gomez.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I make two comments. The community in Yarra, I think, would be unanimous in saying that we support our local businesses. It's part of what makes living in Yarra special and wonderful. They are having trouble. It's almost like we're going to COVID again. The conditions aren't looking good forward. I think we embarked upon the free parking trial, and I used the word trial very carefully because we wanted to work out how we could help them. A whole series of packages which included potentially things like free parking, as well as reduction in red tape, as well as investments in the, making the activity centres that they operate in much more attractive for people to go to. So I want to thank the officers. It's a comprehensive report. I think it's pretty clear that the 1 hour trial, as we've engaged in, has not seen a massive increase in business results for the small business. Nevertheless, it is a trial. We may not get full results in a year, so I'm happy to continue our efforts to try and support small business in Yarra. If that means a change in what we're doing now, I'm fully supportive of that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? Councillor Davies, want to exercise your right of reply? 2 minutes starting now.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for Councillor Crossland and Councillor Gomez, but I just want to make the point that, in fact, we can see direct business results. 25.6% increase of revenue in Swan Street in a cost of living crisis cannot be ignored across all aspects, discretionary, food and retail, you name it. It has achieved 25.6%. That's massive, massive in this cost of living crisis. To ignore that would be to ignore facts and need, right? As I said earlier, when we're talking about the issues on Bridge and Victoria Street, you can even see an uptick on Victoria Street for what it is known for. It's food retail. You can even see it's got a tick. Even Victoria, just a tiny bit, just where the parking is. Because if we're talking about the parking trial not working, and yet we're putting a little bit of money into that, then we have to start looking at how much money we've been putting into Victoria Street. The $900,000 that we're investing in there. If we're going to be looking at that, not looking at long-term gain from investment into businesses, into local businesses, when we can see financial return in Richmond on Swan Street with no other investment, no other support, we get 55.6% increase. But in Victoria Street, millions of dollars pumped into Victoria Street,
30 seconds.
then we've got a bigger problem. That means we're not addressing how we have to actually rebuild Richmond on a multi-level way. Retail activation, sale of assets on the council doing it bit, making sure that 1 hour parking continues based on need. And honestly, me doing all the heavy lifting, it's about time the other councillors stood up and started doing the heavy lifting in Richmond and next to me as well. Okay?
Thank you. Okay, we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed. We move on to 7.6 Burnley Gardens Cottage. We've got 2 registrations to speak. Louis? I've got no surname for you, sir, so sorry about that. Just press that button and you've got 3 minutes when you are ready.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Lewis Matitas and I'm the proposed operator of Burnley Cottage Community Hub and Cafe. I'm a local resident and small business owner, and my intention is to create a welcoming, low-impact community space that respects the heritage of the building and is naturally within the park setting. Importantly, this is not a late-night or high-impact venue. It is designed around daytime use only, with no amplified music, no nightlife, and a strong focus on quiet community-based activation. I understand there may be concerns from nearby residents, and I want to ensure councillors that I will operate the space in a respectful and measured way that prioritises community comfort at all times. I'll be personally involved in the day-to-day operation and fully accountable for how the space is run. My goal is to create a space that local residents and community members feel comfortable using, a place that adds value to the area without changing its character. My intention is to respectively activate and bring renewed life to the important local community asset. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thanks, Louis. The next person is Matt Dillon.
Good evening, Mayor, CEO, councillors, local councillors and council officers. My name's Matt Dillon. I represent Lewis Matitas in this particular application. In addition to the information provided to all councillors from Council Property Services Management here tonight, having worked closely with Lewis throughout this process, I can confirm this is a well-considered and deliverable proposal with a clear focus on community use, heritage sensitivity, and an approach that is appropriate for the surrounding park and community setting. Importantly, the proposal, and these are some of the key points, it's fully privately funded with committed capital investment of over $150,000 and no reliance on any council funding, significantly reducing financial and operational risk to the City of Yarra Council. It's a rental increase and allows for further council income stream investment. The proposal also supported by community engagement and intended partnerships with established organisations including the Salvation Army, Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation, RSPCA Victoria, cultivating community as well as local schools and broader community-based groups as outlined in our very detailed submission. These partnerships reinforce the proposal's social value and long-term benefit. The proposal also has been carefully designed to minimise impact on surrounding residents with a clear emphasis on daytime use and passive activation. Importantly, the proposal retains the integrity of the existing building with no changes to the facade or footprint and all works being internal and heritage sensitive. Lewis understands the responsibilities associated with operating within a public park and heritage setting and is committed to working collaboratively with council and the community. From a delivery perspective, this is a structured, low-impact and adaptable proposal that is ready to proceed. Yarra Council often manages this site for community or commercial, artistic or educational use. This is a perfect opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, to kickstart this use of this unoccupied cottage. We respectively submit that this represents a balanced, low risk and an excellent community-aligned based outcome for the Burnley Cottage. The cottage itself is sadly has not been used for some time now. Just in conclusion, Mayor, we hope the decision can be made as soon as possible after some community consultation process obviously has to be undertaken, bearing in mind we've been 7 months now into the application process. Thank you.
Thanks. Matt, officers, councillors, any questions to the officers on this matter? No. I'm looking for, we've got an alternative motion from Deputy Mayor Harrison. Have you got a seconder for that? Councillor Crossland will second that. Do you want to, is it on the screen? Yes, it is. Okay, you've got 3 minutes to speak to it starting now. Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. Just explain the difference between this and the officer recommendation.
Okay, so, yep. I'm proposing here to conclude this expression of interest process at this stage without endorsing a preferred candidate. And I'm noting the building asset use report that's currently being prepared by officers in response to Notice of Motion number 5 of 2026 and refers the consideration of the Burnley Cottage to the 2027-2028 budget process. And finally, to thank the Burnley Cottage Advisory Committee for its interest and thanks the submitters to the EOI process.
Thank you. Councillor Crossland, seconding?
Nothing further to add at this time.
Any other councillors wanted to discuss, talk on this motion? Okay, well, there's no right of reply in that instance. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, that's passed. We'll move right along to 7.7, proposed discontinuation of road 58 Gibb Street, Collingwood. Kevin Quinn, are you in the house? Kevin, got a registered speaker, he's not here. Okay, so straight up, any questions to any of the officers? No? I'm quite happy to move the officer recommendation, seconded by Councillor Crossland. This is for the discontinuation of 58 Gibb Street. You've all read the papers. I'm not going to speak to that. Councillor Crossland?
Just to say thank you to staff for all the work on this.
Thank you. Anyone want to speak on this motion, discontinuous of 58 Gibb Street? No. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. We'll move on to the proposed discontinuance and land acquisition at View Street, Alphington. No registrations to speak. Any questions to the officers? No. In the absence of Councillor McKenzie, who's sick, I'll move that motion, that officer recommendation, if there's a seconder. Councillor Gomez. I have to say, just in speaking to it, I won't use the 3 minutes, this is basically a member of the public has come and made a magnificent offer to the council, which will lead to an expansion of green open space in Alphington. We've already got a lot there, but it'll be even more, and we would be mad as a cut snake if we didn't take this opportunity. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the resident for this very generous offer and encourage all councillors to vote for this proposed discontinuance and land acquisition at View Street, Alphington. Councillor Gomez, did you want to speak to second it? Okay, anyone else want to speak on this? Or Councillor Crossland.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you. This is such an amazing opportunity for our community. It's so exciting. Appreciating again, yes, it is in an area that does have a lot of open space compared to other parts of the municipality. Overall, it's an amazing contribution. That's a well-loved part of the local area that the locals use quite regularly. They've been so incredibly generous with this offer, and it's an amazing opportunity.
Anyone else like to speak on this? I will not exercise my right of reply, so we'll go to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. Okay, 7.9, response to Lost Dock Lost Dogs Home, notice of motion, no registrations to speak. Any questions to the officers? No. Okay. Councillor Deputy Mayor Harrison will move the officer recommendation. Is there a seconder? No, there's an alternate motion. You got an alternate motion? Okay, can we have it on the screen? Just before you speak to it, can you just turn your microphone on and just explain the gist of the alternate motion?
Okay, I'm moving on this on behalf of Councillor Aston, who, as we said, could not be here this evening. So we're looking at endorsing the future tender process for pound services prior to the expiry of the current contract on 30 September 2027, that we are preparation for future tender processes and inform its requirements. We're seeking to normalise with the Lost Dogs Home processes to ensure registered rescue organisations are formally engaged prior to any euthanasia decision where appropriate, and all reasonable rehoming pathways are demonstrably exhausted prior to euthanasia, to undertake a more detailed assessment of alternative service delivery models, including a specific evaluation of the Save a Dog scheme used by City of Stonington as a comparable provider, consideration of hybrid or multi-provider models, including partnerships with rescue organisations, and associated financial implications of these models, and explore opportunities for City of Yarra to take a leadership role across the sector, including engaging with other councils that contract Lost Dogs Home to advocate for the improved animal welfare outcomes, enhance public reporting of animal outcomes, and greater visibility of decision-making processes relating to euthanasia.
And I take it you're the mover?
I'm moving
Is there
it.
a seconder for that? Councillor Crossland. Councillor Harrison, did you want to speak to that?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Crossland in seconding. Just turn your microphone off, please. Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this? No? Put it to the floor. All those in favour? That's passed unanimously. We move right along to the last business item before we get to notices of motion, and that's a governance report 7.10. I don't think we've got any speakers. No, we don't. Any questions to officers? Okay, looking for somebody to move. I'll move the officer recommendation, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. I won't speak to it. Do you want to speak to it? No? Okay, anyone else want to speak? Okay, all those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. We move on to notice of motion number 1, which is my one. We've got one registered speaker, Fu Nguyen. Fu, thank you for your patience, mate. It's been a long meeting, and yeah, thank you. So you've got 3 minutes to speak to this. Just press that button in front of you, and yeah, thanks, mate.
Good evening, Mayor Jolly and councillors of City of Yarra. So for those that don't know me, my name is Fu Nguyen. I am the president of Yarra Futsal Ballers and an executive board member of Homeground Hub, helping run sporting programs and community services in the City of Yarra. But I'm here today as a proud resident to call this place home, where I've had the privilege to spend majority of my childhood growing up in Atherton's Gardens, the social towers, and the beautiful city of Yarra. So this matter is pretty personal to me. I think Atherton's Garden, and particular the towers, is such a wonderful place with so much richness, culture, and diversity. Therefore, I think we should try our best to preserve it. One of the few places in the world where you can see children using their shoes as goalposts to play soccer with each other. But just around the corner, you can also purchase your favorite overpriced coffee for $10 as well. So I think that's definitely should be kept. Furthermore, I think the social towers provide a place of comfort, stability, and opportunities for families and people to raise children, establish their identity, establish community, and in particular find their footing in society. So myself, someone that came from the public towers, I do speak from a very personal frame. So the towers have provided me the space to build my foundation, navigate myself through life, and give me the opportunity to speak to you guys today. So when I'm talking, I'm speaking from not only principle, but also from personal experience. Furthermore, I believe what Atherton's Gardens and the social towers possess is so unique. It can't be bought, can't be built, and definitely cannot be replaced overnight. So we and myself, and I hope everyone tries our best to preserve it. Furthermore, I think council should work with people, groups and organizations that have a personal care and vested interest for Atherton's Gardens, venues near Atherton's Gardens and the social towers. So we not only sustain it, but we can elevate it to another level as well. So to conclude, I hope the councillors vote on this motion in which their heart seems most fitting so that we can provide the best place for everyone in the city of Yarra. Thank you.
Thanks, Fu. I'm obviously moving it because it's my motion. I think Councillor Ho is seconding this motion. Are there any questions to officers on this notice of motion? I don't think there would be. No? Okay. So, look, just quickly, it's been a long night. We're a very, very polarised municipality. We've got way over the state average of people over $3,000 a week, and we've got way over the state average of people who are on the lowest layer of people in the ABS stats in terms of socioeconomic income. So it's very, very polarised. And what the state government announced 2 years ago, as Dan Andrews was literally walking out the door, what he announced and supported by his government, and it's never really been promised by the Liberal Party that they would tear that up. They've just been very numb on it, is social and ethnic cleansing in the inner city of Melbourne. If we get rid of the 12 towers in Yarra, if we get rid of the 40-odd towers in the city of Melbourne and the other parts of the inner city, Port Phillip and Hobson's Bay and whatnot, we're going to have almost every poor person, almost every person of colour who lives in the inner city kicked out. Because no matter what they say about alternative social housing, which is not as good as public housing, we all know that, well, first up, even if they were telling the truth, social housing is much more expensive for residents and there are fewer rights. It's hard to believe, but it's true. But you only have to look at Carlton Estate to see that on the green open space that once existed there, or even on the estate in the city of Melbourne, on the corner of Johnson and Elgin Street, have been replaced by private apartments, which, by the way, as somebody who is a construction worker, I'm right into supply and building more supply. That's how I make my money. But not a single one of them have got low-cost housing built into it, let alone public housing. And we're not going to let that happen. And that's why we set up the committee. That's why we've pledged to do everything we can as a council to fight this. Some members of the community have gone off and put in a heritage listing application for Atherton Gardens, which, as the Fitzroy councillor, I have to tell you, is the hub. Just imagine Fitzroy without those 4 towers. You know, like we already, you know, the old-timers come back here on Sundays to visit their grannies and their mothers and so on, who used to live here when it was a working-class suburb, and they look around and go, oh my God, this place has changed. As I said in the debate on the Collingwood Town Hall project, most young people who were born in this area, and even those who work in this area, can no longer afford the rents in this area. Your baristas, your bar staff, your hospitality, your nurses, they can't afford it, let alone buying it's just a pipe trim unless somebody left them a house. It would be even worse. It would be even worse if we allow the towers to go down. So this heritage listing, we have to back it in. It's just one string in our bow. No one's seriously suggesting that heritage listing alone is going to save the towers, but it's a string to our bow. If somebody came here and said, I want to do a novena to the Virgin Mary, I would say, knock yourself out. I'm an atheist myself, but who knows, it might work. Let's try everything. So I ask the councillors to support this motion. It's not going to involve any money from the council, but it's coming in behind a group of local residents who are going to do this with or without our support. So let's give them our support. Councillor Ho in seconding the motion.
Second motion. I do support this Atherton Garden. It's like Fu says, the sense belong. It's a very color diversity community that use that Atherton Garden. So, but normally this heritage overlay will help, you know, assure that the resident, the people that will not be demolition. And thank you for that, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ho. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? Councillor Crossland.
Thank you. Just briefly. Our public housing estates are incredibly important, and here we have the Atherton Gardens estate, where there is the opportunity for Victorian heritage registration. This is incredibly important in terms of making sure, as the Mayor has touched on, that we keep the diversity that makes our community so varied and wonderful. And I can't see any reason why we would not want to support this. And of course, to reaffirm our position that we oppose the demolition of the towers. They're people's homes. They contribute so much to our community. They need to stay.
Thank you, Councillor Cross. And anyone else want to speak on this matter? I will not exercise my right of reply, so we'll just go straight to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. We move on to notice of motion 8.2 on co-health. We've got 3 people registered to speak. The first person is Chris Dyke. Welcome, Chris. Just press that button on that microphone thing here at the bottom. Yeah, either one. And you'll have 3 minutes. Beautiful. Starting as soon as you begin to speak.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty normal across the state these days, sadly, for cuts to crucial services to be announced. What's less common, though, is the people who are proposing to do those cuts backing down on them. And I think that's a pretty notable thing that we've been able to achieve here. The reason we've been able to force them to back down, at least for now, on the co-health cuts is because thousands of people across this community, Kensington, Fitzroy, Collingwood, and all across the City of Yarra, actually, have mobilised around the public pressure and public advocacy campaign that was actually launched by some of the councillors in the room. They've gone to mass meetings, they've gone to protests, they've gone to rallies, even picket lines and things like that. And that's really what's kind of forced the issue and forced Labor government's hand and also the Co-Health Board's hand and forced them to back off until July. But what's happening now is the Labor government is sitting there with the independent review report, and they're really just sort of watching from afar and thinking, what kind of offer can they get away with? Is it going to be 50% cut to the GP services? Is it going to be 60% cut? Is it going to be 40% cut? And I think we've got a real opportunity here for City of Yarra to relaunch a public advocacy campaign and send a really clear message, or 2 really clear messages to both the Labor government and the Co-Health Board, that we won't really tolerate these kind of crucial discussions that affect the lives of 12,500 people being held completely behind closed doors. That's ridiculous. Those discussions need to be out in the open. And secondly, the only offer that the community will accept is 100% retention of all the current GP and allied health services that are offered at Fitzroy, Collingwood and Kensington Co-Health. So I think the City of Yarra has a real opportunity here to kind of reiterate the message that the community campaign has already sent to the Labor government, which is that really in an election year, you're going to deprive 12,500 people of access to a GP and throw them at the mercy of the already overworked people at the emergency department? I don't think so. So we've got a real opportunity here to kind of force the issue, drag the discussion back into the public arena and kind of take the lead in keeping all these services as they are, where they are. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. The next person is Heather Hindle. Welcome, Heather. The microphone's turned on, so you can just start straight away.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to talk a little bit from a personal point of view. My son, who is in his mid-50s and has Down syndrome, and I have been patients of Co-Health Collingwood since we moved to the area about 16 years ago now. And on many occasions, the staff at Co-Health have been saviours for us. They've helped me with my son in circumstances that no other other medical practice would do. And this is the importance of community health. We must keep community health going. We know that the services of community health are delivered much more cheaply than through public hospitals, but if we lose Collingwood community health, I'll be going to the hospital, and then we'll be waiting for hours. This is not conducive to the way my son can manage. It's only at Collingwood Community Health that we've actually found care and commitment for his health. If we lose this, we know that it's going to put not only more expense on public hospitals, but it's going to put enormous stress on the hospitals. The independent review has finished and rumours flow. We have no idea what's in it. We must, the Yarra Council must look to putting pressure on the new health minister, whoever it is tomorrow, and the treasurer of the Victorian government to stop the sale of the building and then to maintain that community health process. So I implore the council to take action by writing, and so that we can have representatives to meet with the new health minister and the treasurer. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Libby Harrigan, sorry for distorting your surname, I'm sure.
It's been a long evening. It's a very long evening for you. Yes, Elizabeth Gerardin, Libby, and I've been a resident of Collingwood for 35 years now, and CoHealth Collingwood has been my GP, essentially, practice for general health and wellbeing, and it will be a very sad day to see that disappear. We have, as a community member and somebody who's in health, it will be an enormous loss, not just to our immediate community, but it will have ripple effects across adjacent councils, because we've got 12,500, I'm not quite sure how many actually attend, but there'd be thousands who would attend Collingwood Community Health Centre, who will be forced to go further afield, those people who can travel. There are numerous people who won't be able to travel, particularly those in public housing, women with small children who don't have access to private transport. What are they going to be doing? So it's going to be a massive loss. This has really caught the community off guard, but we have rallied, but we need to become very proactive about making sure that the state and federal governments know that we mean business. We do not want to lose our community health services from this. Victoria has been a leading state in terms of provision or the retention of community health in Australia, and it would be a terrible thing to see that go. Healthcare is becoming increasingly unaffordable for just about everybody. I am lucky I can afford to go private, but my whole history, my health history, is with CoHealth Collingwood. I've had tremendous service from those GPs and allied health professionals, and I want to see that continue. I'm very happy to pay a gap. I don't have an issue with that, but there are many in our council community who can't afford to pay that gap, and they are going to be absolutely left out in the cold. So I really encourage the council to adopt our motion to meet with the health minister, state health minister and treasurer, and try and apply a little bit of pressure to our federal and state governments in order to try and retain our services. Thank you.
Thank you. Libby, can you just turn off, Elizabeth, can you just turn off that thing? Thanks, mate. Okay, so I'm moving it. I've got Deputy Mayor Harrison seconding. Sorry, did you have a question? Yep, Councillor Davies.
It's a question perhaps to the CEO. I requested it, we're doing a notice of motion where we're doing an asset review of all council assets at the moment. And speaking slightly naively, is there a situation where the council could look as part of that review to add a portion where we might look for an alternate space within our asset group for CoHealth in Collingwood?
Did you want to answer that?
Through you, Mayor, thanks for the question. We haven't turned our mind to that, but officially, but we have been asked that question. I participated in the review, the CoHealth review with the independent members, and they asked that, what were my suggestions for an alternative location in the event that the site needed to be rebuilt. There's nothing that really comes to mind in the Collingwood precinct from a council perspective when you think about the footprint. My advice was that they do what they did, I understand that they did at Richmond, which is in the North Richmond estate. They used mountables as a temporary solution while they rebuilt the site on the Collingwood site. So that was the thing that we offered. Yeah, it's not, because location is so specific for this service and so important, it's really crucial that it be local.
Anyone else got questions? Okay, well, I'll move the recommendation, the motion, I should say. Yeah, I'll just, obviously it's taken as obvious that 3A, the Honourable Mary Ann Thomas, that'll be replaced by the new Health Minister. We're not going to write to somebody who's not in that job. But just so you know where this motion came from, last week we had the meeting of the Co-Health Action Committee that the Council set up, which came directly out of an amendment from Clifton Hill resident Michael Naismith at the meeting in this room, you know, whenever it was, late October, early November last year, the biggest meeting I've ever been at in Melbourne, indoor meeting. We had to put speakers, we had to stop it after a while to put speakers at the front so people outside could hear. And I just think it has to be said that unfortunately Co-Health have been slashing their services all over Victoria, but it's only in Yarra and Kensington that they faced resistance, and they were forced, as Chris Dyte said, the government was forced to step in. And that's a huge credit to this community. It's not normal that people give a shit. Let's just call it a spade a spade. When we decided to call this meeting, which by the way, I called under pressure. You know, people go, oh, it was great that you called the meeting. I called it because I was pressured to call it by you, by the community. We called it. The response we got says so much about this community. For so many years, we've stood up against the bad guys and won. And, you know, some people say, oh, you know, it's all Co-Health's fault. The government's got nothing to see there. And some people say, no, Co-Health is perfect. The government have done nothing wrong. Well, the fact is both of them have done something wrong, and that's reflected in the recent internal changes in Co-Health. You only have to talk to staff and ask them what they think of management. And of course, we know that the government has fallen asleep on the wheel and wouldn't have done anything on this if they hadn't got the fire up their backside, and they know there's a state election coming, in particular in this seat at the end of the year, which will be very marginal. So last week we decided that we were fed up waiting. We were told in February we were going to get this report. We've heard rumour after rumour, and they're all saying the same thing. It's all going to be great. We're going to save Co-Health in Collingwood. We're going to put housing there, but Co-Health will be on the ground floor, a new Co-Health. And in the meantime, we might move it, as the CEO said, you know, into portables on the Collingwood estate. And we're going to save all the auxiliary services that Chris talked to. But, you know, talk is cheap. We haven't seen that. And I'm getting increasingly suspicious when it's 6 weeks from when they were supposed to drop this report, 6 long weeks. The community are firing up again. So this motion, which came out of the meeting last week, is to say our patience is running thin. We, as a committee, by the way, have decided last week that if and when the report comes down, if it's anything other than total victory, we're calling an emergency meeting of the committee to look at how we're going to fight. So it's not just left to individual councillors or even me, like it was last time, but it's going to be a more democratic fight back. So let anyone who's listening here from the state and federal government and Co-Health be warned that we are not asleep. We are watching you very, very closely. And if we don't get what the community is demanding, which is all the 3 people who spoke tonight said, we'll be back in the trenches and we'll do whatever we have to do to save Co-Health. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Harrison in seconding.
Look, I don't want to say much. Actually, it was really said very eloquently by the community members who have spoken tonight. People who use that service have told us exactly why it is so important. We know from a cost effectiveness point of view that primary healthcare is far more cost effective than having people in our emergency rooms. This motion is something that's come from the community, and so I'm wholeheartedly supporting this, and I hope everyone gets behind it.
Anyone else want to speak? Councillor Gomez.
Through you, Mayor. So I'd like to thank the community and the speakers tonight. It was amazing. I played a very small part in getting some people to come here to the Fitzroy Town Hall to basically bring their bodies to show that the state government and the Co-Health Board that the community was rallying against them. So I think it's very important after the excitement and the buzz of all that happened, and we did get a shift in the other side, that we continue the efforts now. So I'm in the Fitzroy, we're on the Fitzroy Town Hall now. It's obviously less busy. It's important that we do things like this to remind the state government and the Co-Health Board that, as the Mayor said, we are still watching and waiting and expecting the outcome that has been discussed with us. So I endorse this notice of motion and to my fellow councillors.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? Councillor Crossland.
Thank you. I'd like to start by saying thank you to Chris, Heather and Libby for your submissions this evening on this matter. The situation right now with co-health, particularly at Collingwood, is not looking favourable. While there was federal funding after much protest from community and council, which did offer some temporary reprieve, it only covered GP services. The funding did not extend to address the state of the building, which the state government is responsible for fixing, for which it's noted that state government has not come to the table thus far in terms of providing or committing funding for. Since that time, as far as I'm aware, there's been no commitment to date for ongoing funding of any form. If the state and federal government don't step in to save this soon, co-health will have to start making arrangements for closure by the end of June, and we need a commitment for long-term sustainable funding. Community health centres play a critical role in Victoria's healthcare system, and co-health's closure would be absolutely disastrous for the local health outcomes and will further deepen disadvantage. That's why Yarra's Community Health Advisory Group, on which Councillor Wade, who put this notice of motion to Council, is a rep on, has requested Council step up its public campaign if we don't get a clear answer from the state and federal governments by the 21st of April. Acknowledging Councillor Wade couldn't be here this evening, I'd like to thank her for putting it forward on behalf of Yarra's Community Health Advisory Group, who I'd also like to extend my thanks to for their time and effort and work on this matter, and hope that my colleagues support this motion and vote in favour.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? Councillor Davies.
First I'd like to thank the community members that came down tonight, in particular the lady that was managing a middle-aged disabled son. I can imagine that takes a great deal of strength and time, and so thank you for coming down this evening and making a point, because that actually really brought home the reality to me about how important co-health is to our local community members like yourself. Also the other lady, the other people who spoke tonight, thank you for coming down. The mayor's been great as well, I have to say, to commend him for being down and sort of, in a way, dragging me down to one of the protests down in Collingwood. Why that was really important for me is to see the need that this community has for co-health, and I will always vote in favour of community need. If I had the opportunity to be able to help along the way to get an asset out of our council, many assets, to be able to help along co-health, I would also be here to do that as well. It's a very important part of our community. It's also a very important part of what it is to be Australian and the values we hold together, regardless of the political divide. So I will be supporting this. I would also like to say thanks to Councillor Wade for putting this up. She has just kept pushing this. And again and again and again, so good on her, even for not being here tonight. So, I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? I will not exercise my right of reply, so we'll just vote on that. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. Thanks to the three people and everyone who came for this. We move on to petitions and joint letters. Councillor Davies, Gomez, you've got a petition, I believe?
It's almost the reverse.
More than one petition?
I have 3 petitions to table tonight.
Want to go through them one at a time, please?
I do, thank you. So item 9.1, it's a petition for local law review and homelessness. I'll read it out. A petition containing 221 signatures are requesting that Council, 1, retain all current camping permit exemptions within the new Community Local Law 2026, namely any person deemed vulnerable, homeless or suffering mental illness, consistent with Yarra homelessness strategy. Council are reminded of Melbourne's 2017 attempt to widen camping fines declared a human rights breach by the United Nations. 2, define vulnerable without limitation as those experiencing domestic violence, unsafe housing and disability. 3, explicitly nullify the use of discretionary local or state law to practically circumvent any above protections. 4, never deploy compliance officers to confirmed homeless or vulnerable campsites if in response to camping or illegal long-term parking, and seek communication exclusively through homelessness service partners. And 5, two more things to say, improve compliance officer training on the homelessness strategy and require them to A, fully list any permit exemptions in all communication with people suspected of camping and all written and verbal responses to complaints about camping, and B, carry Ask Easy wallet cards on patrol to hand out at chance interactions. And 6, provide this last one, provide the same special circumstances review option as applies to parking fines, to camping fines, the impounding of vehicles and other belongings and notices pertaining to such. I move that the petition be tabled.
Okay, that's seconded. So we're going to table that petition, send it to the appropriate officer for a response and consideration. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed. Petition number 2.
Petition number 2 is a petition containing 68 signatures. It's a petition to oppose Yarra Council's plans for Wellington Street, this time from the trader community. They're opposing the Building a Safer Wellington Street project. I'll read it out again. We, the business community, strongly oppose this project, both stage 3 and 4, especially in relation to the closure of Wellington Street to cars, the diversion of cars onto local side streets, excessive traffic volumes, moving to Smith Street, and the loss of car parking spaces. Any upgrades to Wellington Street should retain the current traffic flows, with changes limited to maintenance of existing infrastructure, such as the resurfacing of the road, repainting of bike lanes, etc. That has 68 signatures from businesses within the local Collingwood area. I move that this petition be tabled.
I'll second that. Okay, so we ask to go to the relevant officers for consideration and a response. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is passed unanimously. And your final petition?
The final petition is item 9.3. It's a similar petition. It's a petition to oppose the Yarra Council's plans for Wellington Street. This is the third of 3 petitions. Basically, it's the same petition coming back to council. It's from residents who are opposed to the council's plans for Wellington Street. This time, there are 2,560 residents in total. That's an increase of 1,522 new signatures from the previous petition tabled in March last month. I won't read out the preamble again, but basically it's the same as I said before from the business community, but this time a continuation of the same objection to Wellington Street changes from the residents who signed the petition. I ask my fellow councillors to accept this petition.
And I'll second that, and that will go to the relevant officer for response and consideration. All those in favour,
Sorry,
please.
Mayor, if I could ask a question.
Yes, of course.
Just as a point of clarity, is it the same one that been tabled previously, but an updated version? I wasn't super clear on that.
I believe so, yeah. Okay, so we'll vote on accepting that petition. All those in favour, can we just get a vote one way or another? Yeah, we're accepting that petition. Thank you, that's passed unanimously. And are there any more petitions from any other councillors? No. Questions without notice, I've got one. I don't know which officer, it's 2. I've just been hammered in the last week from people from the Collingwood Public Housing Estate, Councillor McKenzie representing them, and also mainly African community members in and around the Fitzroy Estate, about the fact, and I missed this, and I'm going to take full responsibility for this. I don't know if any other councillors saw it and missed it, but in the community grants this year, the Collingwood and Fitzroy, 2 of the homework clubs have been defunded. And this has caused really big stress on both of those estates. So my question is to whatever officer, I'll ask the CEO either to take it herself or the directorate officer, is can we get some type of briefing at some stage, the councillors I'm talking about, prior to the next round of community grants, so that, because we're not allowed, we don't even know who they are, the neutral, the independent body, and that's fine, but I want them to know that this has caused distress in the community, and I would be quite keen to see, even if it's an internal document, as to the reasons why those 2 organisations weren't refunded, because I would really ask my colleagues next year to keep a close eye, as I will, that we make sure that all appropriate submissions are funded, and I think these 2 are definitely worth looking at. I'm not asking for anyone to give a guarantee tonight, because that can't happen, but this needs to be dealt with. So that's my question. I'll take it to the CEO. Can take that one. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Councillors were briefed, I think last week, on the upcoming community grants program. And then there's a further briefing scheduled for May. I'll take the question specifically about the homework clubs, but as councillors know, councillors' role in community grants is to set the framework and to determine the categories, if you like, and then they're subject to, council's community grants program is significant, second only to the City of Melbourne, but also very, very popular, and so highly oversubscribed in some areas. But I will investigate the background to the matter that you've raised.
Thank you. Are there any other questions without notice? No. We move on. Any delegates' reports? Any general business? Any urgent business? Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go in. I'm going to ask for a motion to go into confidential because we have a notice of motion in confidential. Would somebody like to move that? Councillor Crossland, seconded Councillor Davies. All those in favour of going into confidential? That's passed unanimously. Those of you who are not going to be here for confidential,